Chapter 259. Tomb Guards. After entering the canyon, a gust of cold wind blew over, producing a whistling sound. It was eerie and terrifying. The most terrifying thing was that within the canyon, there were huge black shadows. They were huge wild boars that were a few meters tall. Xiao Xianqin led Qin Yun and carefully circled around the resting wild boars. As it was very dark here, they could not see what the wild boars looked like. They only knew that they were very large. And in front of them, there was a very strong aura of a magical beast. It was a spirit beast. There were two spirit beasts in this large magical beast horde. Xiao Xianqin was originally very nervous, but when she thought about how she was holding Qin Yun's hand, for some reason, she calmed down and carefully circled around a very large wild boar. That very large wild boar was a spirit beast. When Qin Yun passed by the group of magical beasts, he could sense that they were in a very good condition from their auras. These magical beasts were not injured. There must be something attracting a magical beast horde that was not injured to hide here. Xiao Xianqin was extremely careful as she led Qin Yun past the spirit beast. In front of them, there was another spirit beast. However, it was sleeping soundly. This made Qin Yun and Xiao Xianqin feel a lot more at ease. Qin Yun had carefully investigated the area earlier, but he did not find any magical beast crystal eggs. He felt somewhat disappointed. There were two spirit beasts here, one male and one female. Generally speaking, there would be magical beast crystal eggs. Finally, Xiao Xianqin led Qin Yun safely through the canyon and arrived at the foot of the gigantic mountain. They stood in front of a large stone door. What about now? Do I need a key? Qin Yun asked as he looked at the gigantic stone door. He could not find the keyhole, and you only need to touch the stone door with the key and you'll be able to open it. However, when the time comes, the commotion will definitely be very big. We must move quickly. After we enter, we must immediately close the stone door. Xiao Xianqin said. All right. Qin Yun took out the black key and gently touched the stone door that was more than 10 meters tall. Ka ka ka. The stone door moved by itself and slowly opened. The sound it produced was very loud and echoed in the canyon. The wild boars were startled awake and let out a series of howls. All the giant wild boars woke up one after another and looked at the huge mountain. The wild boar that was close to the huge mountain rushed madly towards the stone door, shaking the mountains on both sides. Xiao Xianqin clenched her teeth and released a ball of inner strength that contained a large amount of internal energy. It struck the entrance of the canyon, causing the mountains on both sides to crack and huge rocks to fall, blocking the entrance of the canyon. Boom! The wild boar's momentum was so great that it knocked away all the boulders blocking its way. All right, Qin Yun pulled Xiao Xianqin and entered through the crack in the door. After entering, Qin Yun used the key to touch the gigantic stone door, and the stone door slowly closed. After the two of them entered, they both stayed far away from the stone door. They were worried that the stone door would not be closed in time and would be broken by the wild boar. Bang! The stone door was finally closed. Then there was a rumbling sound coming from outside. The wild boars were crazily hitting the stone door. Xiao Xianqin heaved a long sigh of relief. They had finally entered the Tian Shao Imperial Tomb. This stone door is really powerful. Even spirit beasts are unable to break through it. Qin Yun exclaimed. The interior of the Tian Shao Imperial Tomb suddenly lit up. It was a very spacious hall that was decorated with gold and jade. It was like a luxurious hall in a palace. However, this place was empty. There was nothing here. Who's here? Xiao Xianqin sensed the aura of a person and hurriedly shouted. Whoosh! Whoosh! A group of people flashed over. There was indeed someone inside. The group of people that suddenly appeared were all wearing golden armor and were extremely sturdy. There were a total of 11 people. One of them was in the martial Dao realm, and the rest were at the 9th level martial body realm. Xiao Xianqin, how did you get in? Do you have a letter from the crown prince? The leader, a tall and sturdy old man, asked coldly. The key to the Tian Shao Imperial Tomb will not be given to a woman no matter what. You must have stolen the key to enter, right? Xiao Qiong, I never thought that Xiao Yang Long would actually arrange for you to guard the tomb. I really wronged you. You were a great general, yet you were willing to stay in such a place." Xiao Xianqin said coldly. Qinyan had also heard of this Xiao Qiong. He was a great general of the Tian Xiao Empire and had a good relationship with Xiao Yanglong. The Tian Xiao Imperial Tomb could only be opened with a key. Xiao Yanglong must have stationed Xiao Qiong here 2 or 3 years ago. He must have been worried that Xiao Xianqin would obtain the key. Xiao Yanglong had always been on guard against Xiao Xianqin. That's because the Crown Prince is wise. He had already predicted that you would covet the funerary items in the Tian Xiao Imperial Tomb, so he arranged for us to be stationed here long ago. Xiao Qiong laughed loudly. "As long as we capture you, we will be able to obtain the key. When the time comes, we will be able to leave." Xiao Xianqin's fingers were still tightly interlocked with Qin Yun's. She gritted her teeth and blamed herself for being careless. She could only deal with Xiao Qiong among the enemies in front of her. In addition, there were 10 other 9th-level martial body cultivators. Qin Yun was going to face them, which would be extremely dangerous. "Annie Xiao, don't worry and deal with that old man. I'll be fine." Qin Yun used his other hand to pat the back of Xiao Xianqin's hand, telling her to let go. Xiao Xianqin glanced at him and saw that his eyes were filled with confidence. Furthermore, there was a smile on his face. She slowly let go of Qin Yun's hand. "Xiao Xianqin, I really didn't expect you to like this kind of youngster." Xiao Qiong laughed out loud. The spear in his hand shot out like a ray of light towards Xiao Xianqin's throat. At the same time that Xiao Xianqin was furious and embarrassed, she dodged the fatal stab. Then, she took out a zither and moved the zither strings with her fingertips, releasing sound waves that carried a mental attack that enveloped the area like an arrow. "You're also in the martial Dao realm." Xiao Qiong was alarmed. He struck out with a palm towards the incoming sound wave and released a dense amount of internal supreme force, dispersing the sound wave. He anxiously shouted, "You guys go capture her little lover. I'll deal with this woman." Qin Yun had already run to the other side with a relaxed expression. He was someone who possessed 3 Vajra inner cores. His inner cores contained a lot of internal supreme force. The hall was too small. Qin Yun was quickly forced into a corner. "Hee, Xiao Xianqin's little lover looks quite handsome. No wonder she took a fancy to him." "That's right, Xiao Xianqin, this mature and coquettish woman. How does she taste? We wanted to ruthlessly fuck her for a long time, but we didn't expect that a little brat like you would do it." A burly man's ferocious face was filled with lust as he spoke with vulgar words. The other burly men immediately became secretly jealous. Their eyes revealed viciousness, and their killing intent was very strong. Not far away, Xiao Xianqin, who was fighting with Xiao Qiong, had been paying attention to Qin Yun. When she heard those words, she became even more embarrassed and angry. However, she was even more worried. She was very worried that Qin Yun would not be able to defeat those burly men. Qin Yun, who had been forced into a corner, had a calm expression on his face. He smiled faintly and said, "You probably don't know who I am, right? My name is Qin Yun, and I am the husband of your Princess Yuelon, the Crown Prince of the Tianqin Empire. If Yuelon were to find out that you are so rude to me, I will definitely make you suffer a fate worse than death. However, it's your luck to meet me. I will give you a quick death." After Qin Yun finished speaking, he threw out a body securing talisman and froze the 10 men gathered in front of him. His body securing talisman could only stop a martial artist at the 9th level martial body realm for 2 to 3 seconds. However, to a martial artist, in a life and death battle, even being frozen for an instant meant defeat. Defeat meant death. After Qin Yun released the body-securing talisman, the Heavenly Lion's arm trembled and the Heavenly Lion fighting Dragon Claw appeared. He did not use his internal supreme force. He only used the Thunderfire inner core to release the Vajra inner strength and execute the 6-style Wind Slayer. Wind Slayer, Wave Breaker, Mountain Splitter. The moment these 3 moves were unleashed, the Vajra inner strength exploded as it howled out waves of violent winds. Its momentum was astonishing, like a huge wave roaring, a mountain collapsing. Although the heavenly lion fighting Dragonclaw was only formed from inner strength, it was extremely sharp. It was a perfect match for the six-style Windslayer. In an instant, the 10 burly men were sliced into 8 pieces and blood covered the ground. And Xiao, I'm done. Hurry up. Qin Yun, who was in the corner, chuckled and shouted. Xiao Xianqin was also alarmed by Qin Yun's move. She finally felt at ease and was secretly delighted. When Xiao Qiong saw the dismembered corpses on the ground, he felt as if he had seen a ghost. He never expected that the seemingly harmless handsome little lover would be so terrifying. He had been careless. Qin Yun took out his spirit essence saber and used the imperial spirit art. He controlled the saber to fly over and slash at Xiao Qiong. Now, do you know how powerful Aunt Zhao's little lover is? Qin Yun chuckled as he controlled the saber to slash back and forth. After all, Xiao Qiong was an old martial Dao realm cultivator. His cultivation was definitely stronger than Xiao Xianqin's, and he could barely suppress her. However, Qin Yun's actions had distracted him. Now, not only had he been injured by Xiao Xianqin's strange sound blade, he had also been slashed by Qin Yun's saber from time to time. Qin Yun slowly approached Xiao Qiong. Xiao Xianqin knew that Qin Yun was helping her. She used her strongest internal supreme force and plucked the zither strings, producing waves of sound blades that tattered Xiao Qiong's golden armor. Xiao Qiong roared and charged at Qin Yun. He cursed angrily, "Little bastard, I will perish together with you." Qin Yun, be careful. Xiao Xianqin shouted in panic. Qin Yun had already gathered a strong amount of mental energy. When he saw Xiao Qiong charging towards him, he immediately executed the spirit concentration kill and struck Xiao Qiong's head with the mental energy that he had gathered for a long time. Ah! Xiao Qiong screamed in pain and stopped in his tracks. He hugged his head and roared. Xiao Xianqin slapped the zither strings with her palm, and a purplish-gold sound blade shot out from the zither. The purplish-gold Vajra inner strength contained a large amount of inner supreme force. Pa! The sound blade entered Xiao Qiong's head and exploded with a powerful sound wave, causing his head to explode and blood to spurt out. Qin Yun hurriedly went over and took out Xiao Qiong's martial spirit. When he saw that it was a golden spear martial spirit, he said with a look of disdain, "It's this kind of trash martial spirit again." No wonder Xiao Yanglong arranged for him to guard the tomb. Xiao Xianqin could not help but laugh. For many people, a gold weapon martial spirit is considered very good. Aunt Xiao, your little lover is amazing, right? Qin Yun asked with a chuckle. Chapter 260. A disappearing corpse. Qin Yun chuckled and said, All right. I won't say it anymore. I won't say it again." Xiao Xianqin recalled the vulgar words those burly men had said to Qin Yun. She felt a wave of shame and anger in her heart. At the same time, an indescribable, complex emotion rose in her heart. Qin Yun looked around and carefully observed the hall. He said, "This is the interior of the Tian Xiao Imperial Tomb. There's nothing here. Did Xiao Yanglong move it away? Of course not. There's a door at the top of the hall that leads to the depths of the tomb." Xiao Xianqin pointed ahead. There was only a wall there, but there was no door at all. Qin Yun walked to Xiao Xianqin's side and held her lily-white hand. Xiao Xianqin did not know what was going on. She could not help but shake off Qin Yun's hand and quickly walk towards the golden wall. Qin Yun believed that Xiao Xianqin was angry, so he did not think too much about it. He followed behind her and arrived beside the wall. Use the key to touch the wall. Xiao Xianqin touched the wall and said to Qin Yun after confirming it. Qin Yun took out the key and touched the golden wall. Clang, clang, clang. A loud sound could be heard from the stone wall. The huge golden bricks all shrank inwards. The stone wall shrank by more than 3 meters, and a staircase appeared on the ground. "It's so dark down there. Do you want me to use my shadow force so that the two of us can merge into the darkness? That way, we can be safer," Qin Yun suddenly said after walking down the stairs. Xiao Xianqin was silent for a moment before she reached out her hand and clasped Qin Yun's fingers once again. That strange feeling once again lingered in her heart. She could not understand why she had such emotions. She suppressed the chaotic thoughts in her heart and pulled Qin Yun along as they carefully walked down the stairs. Now, they could be considered to have entered the true Tian Shao imperial tomb. The hall outside was mainly for the members of the Tian Shao imperial family to come in and pay their respects. Any Shao, is it possible that Shao Yanglong is guarding here? Qin Yun asked softly. I don't know, but it's not wrong for us to be careful. Xiao Xianqin said softly. You don't have to worry. I'm here. Qin Yun curled his lips. He felt that if he were to encounter an emergency, he might be able to react faster than Xiao Xianqin. The stairs were very long, and it took them almost an hour to reach the end. They finally arrived at the underground tomb. It was a huge underground square, very spacious. The place was filled with a rotten aura. Occasionally, a sinister wind, accompanied by waves of sinister coldness, blew over, looking very horrifying. Xiao Xianqin took out a glowing stone and controlled it to fly into the sky, illuminating the underground plaza. By the feeble light, they could see that there were many houses, large and small. The bigger houses are the tombs of the emperors. The others are all members of the royal family, such as princes and princesses who accidentally died, or the empress and empress. Xiao Xianqin pointed at the large stone houses and said, Your Tian Shao Empire's mausoleum is really big. It looks even bigger than our Tianqin Imperial Palace. Qin Yun was shocked when he saw the huge tomb chamber deep underground. Building such a huge mausoleum palace deep underground was also a huge project. The most powerful thing was that this underground palace was extremely sturdy. Even a martial Dao realm cultivator would not be able to destroy it from above. Only by using that key could one enter this place. Yes, it's only during this period of time that I felt that the tomb of our Tian Shao Empire is too powerful. This is not something that our Tian Shao Empire can build. Xiao Xianqin sighed with emotion. Qin Yun wanted to let go of her hand and walk around, but Xiao Xianqin did not let go. On one hand, she did not want him to run around, and on the other hand, she was worried that there would be enemies hidden here. And Xiao, what's next? Where should we start our investigation? Are there really a lot of treasures buried with them here? Qin Yun asked. Let's take a look at the mausoleum of Yuelon and Uma's mother first. Xiao Xianqin said. This is also what Yuelon told me. All right. Qin Yun also recalled what Xieqiru had said. There is a possibility that Xiao Yuelon's mother could be resurrected. Back then, I also sent concubine Xiao down. I remember that it was over there. Xiao Xianqin pulled Qin Yun and quickly walked over. After walking for dozens of meters, she stopped in front of a small stone house. In front of the small stone house, there was a tombstone with many words written on it. Qin Yun also saw two of the words Su Jing. That was the name of Xiao Yuelon's mother. This is it. Let's open the door and take a look. As Xiao Xianqin spoke, she opened the stone door and a cold wind drifted out from inside. After entering, Qin Yun took out a glowing stone and illuminated the room. There was a jade coffin inside. I'll use my mental power to open it. Qin Yun hurriedly pulled Xiao Xianqin back, preventing her from approaching the jade coffin. He was worried that there would be danger. Qin Yun used the Imperial Spirit Art and locked onto the lid of the jade coffin. He slowly moved the lid away. Very quickly, the lid of the coffin was removed. There was nothing inside. It's empty. Qin Yun said in surprise. Did Xiao Yanglong take it away? Impossible. There are no traces of this stone house and jade coffin being opened. How can they be empty? Xiao Xianqin was incomparably shocked. A look of fear appeared in her panicked eyes. Qin Yun hurriedly pulled her out of the stone house and said, Let's go take a look at the other jade coffins. Let's see if the ones that have been buried recently have the same situation. Xiao Xianqin nodded and brought Qin Yun to a stone house where she was buried 5 years ago. It was the concubine of the previous Tian Shao emperor. They went inside and opened the jade coffin. The corpse inside was gone as well. A chill immediately surged into Qin Yun and Xiao Xianqin's hearts. They held each other's hands tightly. This was too strange. Following that, they opened many coffins, including those of the Empress and Emperor. They were all the same, empty. All right, the corpses are gone. Qin Yun looked at the empty jade coffin and said with a smile, "Did they all go play?" Xiao Xianqin's lily-white hands were covered in cold sweat. She knew that this Tianshao imperial tomb was not that simple. Qin Yun carefully observed the jade coffin and suddenly realized that there were spirit inscriptions carved on the inside of the jade coffin. Among them, there were high-grade spatial spirit inscriptions. If one did not look carefully, it would be difficult to discover them, and they would think that they were jade. "Annie Xiao, did you make all these jade coffins?" Qin Yun asked hurriedly. I'm not too sure. I only remember that when I first came, I used a wooden coffin to send concubine Xiao over. Then, I switched to a jade coffin. It seems that there was a jade coffin to begin with. Xiao Xianqin frowned as she recalled what had happened back then. Then she asked, "What's wrong? Did you find anything?" "There are many spirit inscriptions carved on the jade coffin. Among them, there are spatial spirit inscriptions. I don't know about the others because I can only see the bright lines, and there are many hidden lines." Qin Yun controlled a glowing stone to float inside the jade coffin. It illuminated the transparent jade stone, and there were indeed many spirit inscriptions inside. The corpse was teleported away? What do they want these corpses for? Xiao Xianqin felt a chill run down her spine as she became even more terrified. I don't know. In short, there are many secrets hidden in this Tianshao imperial tomb. Maybe, only the Tianshao emperor knows about it. Xiao Yanglong made the Tianshao emperor delirious, so he shouldn't know about this secret. Qin Yun sighed. "Let's go up and bring Xiao Qiong's corpse over. We'll put in the jade coffin and take a look." Xiao Xianqin nodded and went up with Qin Yun. She was worried that Qin Yun would go up alone, and she did not dare to stay in this strange tomb. They quickly brought Xiao Qiong's corpse down and placed it in an empty stone house. This stone house was prepared for the future and had never been used before. They placed Xiao Qiong's corpse into the jade coffin, closed the lid, and waited patiently by the side. The jade coffin itself does not contain any energy. The energy should be transported to the jade coffin through space. This is a very brilliant method of using spatial spirit inscriptions. Qin Yun's face was filled with yearning as he said, "Even in the martial, desolate land, it seems that no one can use spatial spirit inscriptions to such an extent. It seems that the secrets hidden in this tomb far exceed our imagination. I just don't understand. What do they want those corpses for?" Xiao Xianqin was very puzzled about this. Bloodline or martial spirit. These are things that can be retained for a period of time after a person dies. Qin Yun said, "You said before that your Xiao family's bloodline is very strong, and you can always awaken a very strong martial spirit. Furthermore, you are born with a lot of spirit veins. This might be related to your ancestors." Xiao Xianqin nodded her head. "It seems that our Xiao family's ancestors have a very mysterious background, and they even built this tomb a long time ago. It's a pity that that bastard Xiao Yanglong made the emperor half dead. We have no way of knowing what happened here." Suddenly, the jade coffin emitted a burst of aura. It was a very strong spatial fluctuation. Qin Yun immediately controlled his mental power and opened the lid of the coffin. Xiao Qiong's corpse had indeed disappeared. "Aunt Xiao, do you want to? Let's lie in there and give it a try." Qin Yun suddenly thought of something and asked, "No, what if we go to some damned place and can't come back?" Xiao Xianqin hurriedly shook her head. "Don't think about this anymore. It's very dangerous. Let's look around again. Maybe we'll find something." Qin Yun could only give up on that idea. Xiao Xianqin nodded and said, "But we must be together and not separate. This way, if we encounter other situations, we can take care of each other." "All right." Following that, Xiao Xianqin and Qin Yun walked through the stone houses, searching for other clues. 2 days later, Xiao Xianqin was also somewhat tired. She sat on the chair that Qin Yun had taken out. After 2 days of investigation, they were certain that there was no danger here, so they no longer needed to use the shadow force. I didn't find anything. Xiao Xianqin sighed. Why don't we go out? Especially when they hit them with sticks, the sound they made was bang, 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 which meant that the bottom was hollow. I found something. Qin Yun is pleasantly surprised. Then he lifted all the stone slabs on the ground. He lifted the stone bricks and saw an empty pit with a golden key in it. He used his mental power to control the golden key to float up. The shape of this key was similar to the one they had used to enter. It was obvious that it was used to open a special door. Where does this key open? Xiao Xianqin asked. Qin Yin shook his head. I don't know where it opens either. However, I'm guessing that this is the key to the core of the tomb. Is it the stone house marked on your beast's skin? Xiao Xianqin said as she looked at the beast's skin in Qin Yun's hand. Maybe. Let's give it a try. Qin Yun said with a smile. We have to start from the beginning. After discovering the golden key, Xiao Xianqin saw hope. Not to mention trying the dozen or so stone houses. Even if she tried all of the hundreds of stone houses here, she wouldn't find it troublesome. They were all very patient. They entered the stone house marked on the beast's skin and used the golden key to knock and touch everywhere to see if they could open a door. When they reached the sixth stone house, they used the key to touch the floor beneath the jade coffin, and the floor suddenly sank. There's a reaction, Qin Yun shouted in surprise. The stone slab beneath the jade coffin was 2 meters wide and 3 meters long. It was slowly descending. Soon it descended more than 10 meters, but it did not stop. Are we going to stand on it and then descend? Xiao Xianqin said. Maybe. Let's go down and take a look. Qin Yun looked at Xiao Xianqin, waiting for her agreement. All right. Xiao Xianqin pulled Qin Yun and jumped onto the stone slab, following it as it descended. The speed at which the stone slab descended was very slow. It was unknown how deep it would go. Xiao Xianqin vigorously stepped on the stone slab and said, This stone slab is really thick. We knocked on it before, but we didn't discover any mysteries below. What is the intention of the builder? Why did he hide the key? The place where the golden key is hidden has not been opened for a long time, Qin Yun said. Xiao Xianqin looked at the glowing stone in her hand and squatted down. She said, Qin Yun, if I hadn't brought you here, I might have died outside. No wonder Yuan said that she would bring you along no matter what. It can be seen that she understands you very well. That's true. If she didn't know how powerful I am, how could she possibly pester me? Qin Yun could not help but smile proudly as he said. Xiao Xianqin chuckled and said, Yuan is a good girl. Don't tell me you despise her. If she knew that she was pestering you, I wonder if she would be angry. And Xiao, don't tell her that I was just joking. Qin Yun hurriedly said, If I tell her about this, I'll tell her that I'm your little lover. Xiao Xianqin immediately looked at Qin Yun with hidden bitterness and said with a light snort, Let's stop and not talk about these two things anymore. And Xiao, don't be angry. I'm just joking. Actually, Yuan understands me very well. For example, last time when I challenged Xiao Yanglong, no one did not support me. They also thought that I would not be able to defeat Xiao Yanglong, but only Yuan supported me in challenging Xiao Yanglong, Qin Yun said with a smile. The two of you are equally reckless. All right, that girl Yuan is also the same. Xiao Xianqin said somewhat helplessly, I feel that the three of you will definitely be able to pierce through the sky. Qin Yun and Xiao Xianqin chatted. Unknowingly, the stone slab stopped. It finally stopped. Look, there's a door here. Xiao Xianqin used the glowing stone in her hand to illuminate a stone wall and said, That stone slab was mainly responsible for raising and lowering the person with the golden key to the bottom of the square well. Qin Yun took out the golden key and touched the door. With a ka-ka-ka sound, the door slowly retracted to both sides. After the stone door opened, there was a long corridor. It was pitch black inside. Qin Yun controlled the glowing stone to float in front of the corridor before walking in with Xiao Xianqin. The corridor was extremely cold, and from time to time, a gust of cold wind would blow over. It's quite cold. I wonder where this cold air came from. Xiao Xianqin shivered and had no choice but to use her inner force to resist the cold. The strange thing was that the further they went, the heavier the cold air became. Even a martial Dao cultivator, like Xiao Xianqin, could not withstand it. Her body was trembling slightly. "Aunt Xiao, can't you withstand that cold air?" Qin Yun could feel the jade-like hands that were clasped tightly, with his fingers gradually turned cold. Xiao Xianqin nodded. "What about you? If you can't hold on, let's go back." "I'm fine. Come, take my left hand." After Qin Yun switched hands, he channeled the Vajra inner force of the Thunderfire Golden Core into Xiao Xianqin's body through her palm. As the Vajra inner force flowed through Xiao Xianqin's body, she felt warm and extremely comfortable. She no longer felt cold. She could not help but sigh and say, "Your flame is really strong." Qin Yun grinned and asked, "It's much better now, right?" Xiao Xianqin's entire body felt warm and comfortable. When she thought about how her comfort was brought by Qin Yun, she could not help but have chaotic thoughts. Much better. Xiao Xianqin sighed in her heart and extinguished the inexplicable weak flame of passion in her heart. The two of them walked rather slowly, mainly for safety's sake. Therefore, it took them more than 2 hours to walk out of the long corridor and arrive at a circular stone room. This stone room was more than 10 meters wide, and there were no other passageways. It was the end of the corridor. In the middle of the stone room, there was a crystal pillar that was more than 2 meters thick. The pillar emitted a white light, and white flames surged within it. Upon closer inspection, one could see that there were many inconspicuous runes on the crystal pillar. This pillar is the energy source for the Great Formation, Qin Yun said. Xiao Xianqin looked at the interior of the crystal pillar and said with some disappointment, "Just what is hidden in the Tian Shao Imperial Tomb? Could it be that this is all? This should be the most secret place in the Tian Shao Imperial Tomb. As for where those corpses went, I'm afraid it will become a mystery." Qin Yun sighed and said, "Aunt Xiao, should we destroy this Tian Shao Imperial Tomb?" Xiao Xianqin immediately frowned and did not immediately reply. She looked at the crystal pillar and fell in a deep thought. After pondering for a moment, she said, "Let's keep it. In any case, the key is in our hands. We can come in again in the future." All right. Qin Yun also felt that the Tian Shao Imperial Tomb was a good refuge. The prerequisite was that he could avoid the wild boars outside the door. Just as Qin Yun was looking around, Xiao Xianqin suddenly shouted, "Qin Yun, come over and take a look. There seems to be something inside." Xiao Xianqin had been looking at the crystal pillar the entire time, and she was observing it very carefully. Qin Yun had only taken a few simple glances before walking around the stone room. When Qin Yun heard Xiao Xianqin shout, he hurried over. "What is it? Why don't I see anything?" Qin Yun only saw the white flames burning. "Look, there's a ball of white light floating around in the flames." Xiao Xianqin pointed to a place inside the crystal pillar and said. Qin Yun leaned over to take a closer look. Soon, he saw a palm-sized ball of white light floating up and down inside the crystal pillar. There was something inside the ball of white light. There was a ball of white flame and a white object the size of a finger. He did not know what it was. Chapter 262. Mental Resonance. Xian Penqin Yin looked at the item on the crystal pillar and felt an itch in his heart. However, it was not easy to take out the item inside unless the crystal pillar was destroyed. It would be best if we don't destroy the crystal pillar. This pillar is most likely the root of the Tian Shao Imperial Tomb. If it is destroyed, the powerful defense of the Tian Shao Imperial Tomb will also disappear. Xiao Xianqin also wanted to know what was inside. Qin Yun understood what Xiao Xianqin meant. She was unwilling to destroy the Tian Shao Imperial Tomb because she felt that it would be a good place to stay in the future. He looked at the crystal pillar and said, "Let me see if there is any other way." He stretched out his hand and pressed it on the crystal pillar. He felt a trace of coldness and suddenly recalled that the reason why the corridor was so cold was most likely because of the strong cold aura released by the crystal pillar. Qin Yun felt that this circular stone room was not cold at all. It was extremely likely that the cold aura had been released to other places. I'll try using the golden key. Qin Yun took out the golden key and touched the crystal pillar. He easily entered. Following that, his arms sank into the crystal pillar. Is there any danger? Xiao Xianqin was shocked and hurriedly asked. I'm fine. The energy inside is very strange. It can't be absorbed and it doesn't affect me at all. Qin Yun never expected that the golden key would be so useful. He quickly grabbed the item inside the crystal pillar and took it out. It's a crystal ball. There's something sealed inside. Qin Yun looked at the crystal ball he took out and said excitedly, What exactly is inside? Is that white ball inside the crystal ball a martial spirit? Xiao Xianqin stared at the soul-sealing pearl, filled with doubt. What level of martial spirit is this? It's like a crystal, exquisite and translucent, releasing white light. Could this be a crystal martial spirit? But among the martial spirits, there is no martial spirit of this level. I don't know either. It might be a martial spirit. Qin Yun had the same thought. Xiao Xianqin urged. Then hurry up and take a look. The thing next to it is also very special. It looks like a very short pen. When Qin Yun heard Xiao Xianqin's words, he felt that it was a little similar. However, the shaft of the pen was white and the tip of the pen was very sharp. It was also rather short, only as long as a finger. It looked like a pen carved out of white jade. It was small and exquisite, extremely exquisite. He took out a soul-sealing pearl and tried to sense the white ball of light that seemed to be a martial soul. Just as his mental force touched the white ball of light, a burst of light suddenly flashed. After the light disappeared, the soul and the white jade pen merged into one. This seems to be the natural fusion of the martial spirit and the spirit artifact. Qin Yun said in pleasant surprise. Cracks suddenly appeared on the crystal bead, and it shattered on its own. Finally, Qin Yun obtained the small and exquisite white jade pen. This is a spiritual weapon? That's not right. The runes on it are very complicated. Qin Yun was able to confirm at the moment he touched it. Then, he used his mental force to carefully observe it. Very quickly, he discovered that there were many runes inside the pen, and he was unable to determine the grade of the runes. This is at least at the Xian mark level. He was surprised. Having Xian marks meant that it was a Xian artifact. Quickly drip your blood, Xiao Xianqin said. And Qin Yun dripped a drop of blood onto it. The blood seeped into the white jade and quickly disappeared. Then, the white jade released a sparkling luster. Mental resonance Xian pen, inscription spirit, beast king. After Qin Yun dripped his blood, he immediately knew that it was a Xian artifact. He also understood why the tip of the pen was so hard and sharp. It turned out to be a carving knife. However, from the mental resonance Xian pen, he could read other information, namely, inscription spirit and beast king. This made him extremely curious. The information that could be embedded in the mental resonance Xian pen must be extremely important. Isn't this very suitable for you? Xiao Xianqin said happily. Qin Yun was an inscription master. With a good carving knife, he would be able to inscribe runes with greater ease. Why was it placed inside the crystal pillar? Who put it in? This is a very good Xian artifact. Then what are the inscription spirit and the beast king? Qin Yun looked at the mental resonance Xian pen and exclaimed, I wonder what grade of Xian artifact it is. Good Xian artifacts can only be made with blueprints. If it's a top-grade Xian artifact carving knife, the blueprints would be even more precious. Xiao Xianqin said, I wonder what that inscription spirit is. To be able to be placed together with such a precious Xian artifact, it must not be an ordinary item. Qin Yun nodded. When I figure it out, I'll definitely tell you. Maybe I'll be able to find some clues about this tomb. It's time for us to go out. This place has been more or less explored. Xiao Xianqin looked around and sighed softly. Right now, she still did not know the secret of the Xiao family's bloodline. There are still many wild boars outside. It won't be easy for us to get out. Qin Yun smiled. Xiao Xianqin thought of the wild boars outside the door and felt a headache. With a helpless expression, she said, We can only go all out. If it really doesn't work, I'll go attract those wild boars. You could just run. Any Xiao, I just obtained this mental resonance Xian pen. I can use it to try making talismans. Qin Yun waved the beautiful jade pen in his hand. This was actually a carving knife, but it was made into the shape of a pen. What kind of talisman can you refine? Xiao Xianqin had also heard that Qin Yun had a very powerful body securing talisman. Top-grade bone talisman. Body securing talisman. Qin Yun took out some spirit beast bones. When Xiao Xianqin heard that, she was very surprised. You can already refine top-grade talismans now. Yeah, what's wrong? Qin Yun took out the furnace and a flat table as he said with a smile. You seem to be only a beginner-level inscription master and can barely make intermediate-level talismans. You can already make top-grade talismans now? Xiao Xianqin was very puzzled. Qin Yun took out a golden badge and said with a smile, Annie Xiao, I am now a high-ranked inscription master. Of course, Xiao Xianqin recognized this emblem. In the Empire, even the emperor had to be respectful to an inscription master with this emblem. She remembered that when she was young, when this kind of inscription master came, the emperor would hold a banquet to welcome them grandly. Qin Yun handed the badge to Xiao Xianqin with a smile. She was stunned for a moment before receiving it. This badge of a high-ranked inscription master is indeed very special. When I hold in my hand, I can feel the strong will of the badge, wanting to return to its owner's hands. Xiao Xianqin held the badge tightly, otherwise it would fly away by itself. After she released her hand, the badge flew towards Qin Yun. Qin Yun grabbed the badge and put it away. He said with a smile, Auntie Xiao, you can rest assured now. I will definitely be able to create a top-grade body securing talisman. At that time, I will be able to freeze the spirit beast for a few seconds. You're really amazing. You're only 17 years old, and you're already a high-ranked inscription master. Xiao Xianqin exclaimed, All right, a top-grade spirit talisman should only be made by a spirit rank inscription master, right? It's fine. Crafting talismans is relatively simple. It's not as difficult as crafting spirit artifacts and setting up formations, so I can craft talismans that are of a higher level. As Qin Yun spoke, he stuffed many beast bones into the furnace and melted them into something that resembled soft mud. He could even refine royal grade bone steel, let alone the bone plates needed to refine top-grade bone talismans. For hours later, he had refined 10 bone plates. They looked like slightly thick pieces of paper. Annie Xiao, use your Vajra inner strength of the martial Dao realm and pour it into these bone plates. Qin Yun was very glad that he was always surrounded by martial Dao realm cultivators. With the Vajra inner strength of the martial Dao realm, the talismans he created would be even stronger. Xiao Xianqin did, as Qin Yun said. She very seriously released her Vajra inner strength and poured into the bone plate. Only when her Vajra inner strength could no longer be poured into it did she change to another piece. She found it very interesting to be able to participate in the crafting of top-grade spirit bone talismans. She was extremely engrossed in completing the task that Qin Yun had given her. Qin Yun took out the mental resonance Xian pen and injected the power of his blood soul into it. Immediately, he had a very strange feeling. It was as if the mental resonance Xian pen was a part of him, as if it was connected to his hand. What shocked him the most was that when he was seriously inscribing spirit inscriptions, he could see what was under the tip of the pen. The tip of the pen was like his third eye. He could clearly see everything under the pen. This meant that he could carry out extremely fine carvings. How much power could be unleashed depended on whether the carving was meticulous enough. For the vast majority of inscription masters, the spirit inscriptions they carved could absorb energy to circulate. Even if they succeeded, they did not care if they were meticulous or not. Generally speaking, a coarsely carved spirit inscription would only be able to release 10% of the power of the spirit inscription. A slightly better carving would be able to release 20% to 30% of the power. If one could release 40 to 50% of the power of a spirit inscription, they would be considered an outstanding inscription master. Usually, these people were famous, and the spirit artifacts and talismans they sold were all very expensive. In the Divine Inscription Palace, there were also tools to appraise the fineness of spirit inscriptions. The fineness of spirit inscriptions was divided into 10 levels. The first level was the worst, and the 10th level was the best. Above the 10th level, there were also legends of the Grandmaster level and the Saint level. That was a realm that was extremely difficult to reach. Qin Yun had appraised the power of his spirit inscriptions. He was able to release about 30% of the power of the spirit inscriptions, which was between the 3rd and 4th level. To a young inscription master like him, this was extremely impressive. This was also one of the reasons why Zhuo Chuan valued him so much. It was because he still had a lot of room for improvement. So it turns out that a good carving knife can allow a person to inscribe spirit inscriptions with greater precision and ease. Qin Yun felt that the spirit inscriptions he was currently inscribing should be around the 4th or 5th level. Of course, the spirit inscriptions he was inscribing were all high-grade spirit inscriptions. It was even more difficult to ensure a good degree of finesse, especially when inscribing on hard materials. This was a test of an inscription master's comprehension of the charm of the inscriptions. If one had a deep understanding of the natural charm of the inscriptions, they would be able to be even more meticulous when inscribing. Xiao Xianxin was busy making the bone plates. During this period of time, she asked Qin Yun a few questions, but Qin Yun did not hear them. He focused all of his attention on the tip of the mental resonance Xian pen. The speed at which he moved the tip of the pen was sometimes fast and sometimes slow. The amount of strength he used was also different. He had never used such a subtle amount of strength and speed to inscribe spirit inscriptions. Xiao Xianxin was also attracted by Qin Yun's concentration. This was the first time she had seen such a serious man. Especially Qin Yun's determined and handsome side profile, she was somewhat absent-minded. Chapter 263. Against Beast Horde, Qin Yun had the experience of crafting top-grade spirit talismans before. Furthermore, he had carved a very difficult royal-grade spirit inscription. Therefore, it was not too difficult for him to craft top-grade body, securing talismans now. Moreover, the spirit runes he was inscribing were the body, securing runes that he was very familiar with. The only difficulty was that he had to perfectly coexist when inscribing multiple sets of spirit runes. Xiao Xianxin had been standing by the side the entire time, watching Qin Yun seriously inscribe spirit inscriptions. She also did not speak to Qin Yun, mainly because Qin Yun was very engrossed, as if he had poured all his spirit into the carving knife, completely unaware of the things around him. This was the first time Qin Yun was so engrossed. It was mainly because of the mental resonance Xian pen. This brush allowed him to be extremely focused. Otherwise, he would definitely be distracted from time to time when he was inscribing spirit runes. 2 days and 2 nights passed. In the past, he had been maintaining his focus and continuously inscribing spirit runes. Xiao Xianxin, who was at the side, was once again alarmed by Qin Yun's ability. She could tell that Qin Yun was extremely tired, but he was able to maintain his concentration and continuously inscribe spirit inscriptions. When people were tired, they were easily distracted, especially when they were doing something very boring. It was even harder to concentrate. Xiao Xianxin believed that she did not have such patience, so she admired Qin Yun very much. What she didn't know was that when Qin Yun was inscribing spirit marks, not only did he not feel bored, he was filled with passion. It was precisely because he was full of passion that he was able to maintain a very focused state. Finally finished, so tired, Qin Yun finally raised his head and revealed a very satisfied smile. This is the joy that comes from the bottom of his heart. Inscription masters are truly amazing. Xiao Xianxin looked at the bone talisman and said with incomparable admiration, "At least I can't do this for 2 consecutive days." 2 days passed. Qin Yun was somewhat surprised because this was the first time he was so focused on crafting talismans, so he didn't know how much time had passed. Xiao Xianxin picked up the top-quality body-securing bone talisman and exclaimed once again, "This is a top-quality spirit bone talisman, yet you only used 2 days to make it. As far as I know, Even many famous masters would need at least 10 days to make a top-grade spirit talisman. It's all thanks to this mental resonance Xian pen, otherwise I wouldn't be able to be so fast. Qin Yun chuckled and raised the mental resonance Xian pen in his hand. He said, "It's all thanks to Aunt Xiao for bringing me here, allowing me to obtain such a good item." Xiao Xian Qin smiled lightly. "This is also because you are fated with the mental resonance Xian pen. You are a very outstanding inscription master. Only you can use this Xian pen well." "Aunt Xiao, do you think that a top-grade body-securing bone talisman can deal with a spirit beast?" Qin Yun asked. "If you can freeze a spirit beast for a few seconds, you should be able to kill it, right?" Xiao Xian Qin fell in a deep thought. She frowned slightly and said, "I don't know either. There are 2 spirit beasts outside. If it's just one spirit beast, it might not be a problem. How about this? Each of us will deal with one." Qin Yun said with a smile. His eyes are filled with expectation. After he cultivated the 3 Vajra inner cores, he had not had a good fight. Now that he had the rare opportunity to fight a spirit beast, he could also see how strong he was. "Can you really do it?" Xiao Xinqin also knew that Qin Yun was very strong, but she still had some doubts. "I'm not sure either. I'll have to give it a try to know. Even if I can't beat a spirit beast, I won't be killed. I can stall it for a period of time." Qin Yun said with a smile. "I just want to see how big the gap is between me and a spirit beast." The wild boar spirit beast outside was also very strong. Its skin was rough and its flesh was thick. Its defense was very strong and its attack power was also very strong. "All right, when the time comes, each of us will deal with a spirit beast. However, you have to refine more of these body-securing talismans. Even if we can't beat them, we can still get rid of the beast horde's pursuit." Xiao Xianqin nodded in agreement. It didn't matter if they couldn't beat them, as long as they weren't killed by the spirit beast. Qin Yun continued to refine the body-securing talisman. Xiao Xianqin held the body-securing bone talisman and injected the power of the martial Dao realm into it. In the next few days, Qin Yun became more and more proficient in crafting top-grade body-securing talismans. In particular, his control over the mental resonance Xian pen was even more proficient. It was much smoother than the first time he made it. The mental resonance Xian pen is really a good thing. Not only does it increase the precision of my inscription, it also allows me to draw more smoothly. Who exactly refined such a good thing? After Qin Yun familiarized himself with the usage of the mental resonance Xian pen, he could feel its power even more clearly. What made him feel strange was that when he used the heavenly lion's arm to hold the pen, he felt the best. If he used the other arm to hold the pen, the inscription wouldn't be as smooth. There's a spirit called the Beast King in the mental resonance Xian pen. Could it be related to this? Qin Yun suddenly thought of this matter because his heavenly lion's arm was related to beasts. For is that enough? Xiao Xianqin took the bone talisman that Qin Yun had just crafted and asked. Qin Yun used 5 days to make 3 sheets. This is much faster than when he made the first sheet. It's still not enough. Let's make 2 more. We'll each have 3. That way, we'll be more secure. Qin Yun watched Xiao Xianqin inject her power and said with a smile, "Auntie Xiao, if you have nothing else to do in the future, stay in the Star Xian Wu Academy and be my helper." "I want it too, but it won't be that easy for me to enter the Star Xian Wu Academy. Furthermore, I'm wanted." Xiao Xianqin sighed. Because she possessed the Soul Shake powder, she was chased by Blue Spirit Star Palace and a few other forces. "That's easy. You can just enter anonymously. I'll arrange it for you." Qin Yun had been crafting talismans for a few days and now he planned to rest for half a day. It was also a good time to chat with Xiao Xianqin about this matter. "I'll go back and discuss it with Yume. If she doesn't agree, there's nothing I can do. After all, I have to take good care of her." Xiao Xianqin could not help but laugh. "You also know that girl Yume. If I'm not by her side, she'll cause trouble everywhere." "I understand," Qin Yun said with a smile. After another 3 days, Qin Yun had created a total of 6 top-grade bone talismans. As Xiao Xianqin injected energy into the bone talisman, she said, "Qin Yun, rest well and recuperate. We're preparing to kill our way out. If everything goes well, we might be able to exterminate that large magical beast horde." As she spoke, she became slightly excited. If just the two of them were able to exterminate a large magical beast horde, no one would believe it if word of this got out. However, after the past few days of injecting energy into the top gray bone talisman, she realized that the body-securing talisman had absorbed a lot of energy. The power it released would definitely be very strong, which is why she had such confidence. If we can really kill two spirit beasts, TSK, no one will believe it, Qin Yun said with a smile. He lay on a couch and looked at the sky above the circular stone room. He yearned to go out with Xiao Xianqin to deal with the magical beast horde. After resting for a day, Qin Yun and Xiao Xianqin were in their best condition. They left the secret underground chamber and went to the tomb above. Although they did not understand why the corpses had disappeared, they had gained a lot. They had obtained the mental resonance Xian pen, a Xian artifact. After leaving the huge tomb, they arrived at the magnificent hall outside. Qin Yun, "After we leave, immediately close the door. Don't let those wild boars in." Xiao Xianqin looked at the gorgeous hall and did not wish for it to be destroyed. Qin Yun nodded and said, "It's night outside." He said, "It's night outside. When the time comes, we'll open the door and hide in the darkness. It won't be that easy for them to discover us. We don't need to fight the spirit beasts head-on. Maybe it's just that it will be more dangerous when we go out." Xiao Xianqin nodded and smiled gently. Then, she clasped her fingers tightly with Qin Yun's. After a few days, she once again held hands with Qin Yun in such an intimate manner. She felt a little excited in her heart. That indescribable feeling unknowingly lingered in her heart once again. Qin Yun and Xiao Xianqin arrived in front of the door, took out the key, and opened it. Clang, clang, clang. The door slowly opened, making a loud sound. Qin Yun and Xiao Xianqin secretly tensed up, because such a loud sound would definitely alarm the herd of wild boars. Sure enough, through the tiny crack in the door, they could hear the wild boars howling madly. After the gap in the door was large enough, Xiao Xianqin hurriedly pulled Qin Yun out. The moment Qin Yun left, he used the key to touch the door and let it close. It was incomparably dark outside, and a cold wind raged. The wild boars' howls echoed in the canyon, making it seem even more eerie and terrifying. The herd of wild boars rushed over, their huge bodies trampling on the ground, causing the ground to tremble slightly. Xiao Xianqin's movement technique was not bad, and she was also in the martial Dao realm. Her running speed was extremely fast. She pulled Qin Yun and lightly tapped her feet on the ground. She floated up into the air, and in the blink of an eye, she was more than 100 meters away. The wild boars that were charging madly smashed into the stone door one after another. The stone door of the Tianshao Imperial Tomb was very sturdy. Once again, it was struck by a spirit beast-level wild boar, but it showed no signs of loosening. "Qin Yun, I'll go alone and lure the wild boars away. At that time, the ones running in front will definitely be the two wild boars. As long as you follow behind them and kill the class 8 or 9 wild boars, it will be fine. Finally, we'll take care of 2 spirit beast wild boars together." This was a plan that Xiao Xianqin had to come up with. Her speed was very fast, and she would not be caught by the spirit beasts even if she ran in front. Qin Yun nodded. At that moment, they were hidden in the darkness, and the wild boars could not sense them. Xiao Xianqin released Qin Yun's hand and released her aura. Then, she quickly flew into the canyon. The wild boars sensed her aura and hurriedly chased after her. Not long after, all the wild boars were madly running through the canyon, chasing after Xiao Xianqin as they howled loudly. Qin Yun followed behind the wild boars and controlled his spirit essence saber to slash at the class 8 and 9 wild boar magical beasts. He had cultivated 3 Vajra inner cores, and his mental force had become even stronger. He had also mastered the Imperial Spirit technique to the great perfection stage and could use his mental force to control weapons to unleash a very strong attack. The spirit essence saber constantly spun and slashed, causing blood to splatter out. Blood flew everywhere, and one wild boar after another fell to the ground. Chapter 264. Magical fairy Xiao, Xianxin, and Xiao Yuanmei had been together before, so she knew that the imperial spirit technique used with mental power was very powerful. However, she had never seen its true power with her own eyes. Usually, she would only see Xiao Yuanmei controlling the sword to fly around. Now, she had finally seen it. However, not long after, most of the wild boars following the two Lord Wild Boars died. Those that did not die fell to the ground, unable to continue chasing. And Xiao, I'm going to use the talisman. After Qin Yin finished speaking, he threw the bone talisman out like a dart. With a whoosh, the top-grade bone talisman exploded between the two wild boars, creating a gust of wind that enveloped a radius of 10 to 20 meters. The two huge wild boars that were madly chasing after Xiao Xianqin suddenly stopped. Xiao Xian let out a delicate shout as a zither appeared in her hand. The zither strings suddenly trembled as countless specks of light shot out and struck the heads of the two wild boars. From behind, Qin Yun controlled his saber to fly over and slash at the back of the wild boar. The wild boar's skin was very thick, and the saber was unable to cut through it. Xiao Xianqin's attack was very effective, causing the heads of the two wild boars to bleed. After all, she was in the martial Dao realm, and her internal energy was relatively strong. 5 seconds later, the wild boars could move again. I'll do it. Xiao Xianqin hurriedly threw out a top-grade body, securing bone talisman, and enveloped the two wild boars. Following that, she shook her zither, and the entire zither was shrouded in purplish gold flames. Go! With a light shout from Xiao Xianqin, the zither flew out and struck the head of the wild boar, producing a very strange sound. This sound was not considered strong. Instead, it was a bit gentle. However, it caused the mountains on both sides of the canyon to tremble. Cracks appeared, and countless boulders rolled down. The wild boar's head was shaken to the point where a mist of blood spurted out, and it fell to the ground. Xiao Xianqin had killed a wild boar, and there was another one. Qin Yun suddenly leaped into the air and took out the giant king spirit hammer. He released a portion of his inner supreme force and fused it with the Vajra inner strength. The power of the 3 Vajra inner cores instantly gathered together and poured into the heavenly lion's arm, charging into the giant king spirit hammer. The giant king spirit hammer suddenly shook, and a purplish gold lightning and fire aura exploded out. It let out a furious roar of a lion, and an incomparably terrifying aura rippled out, causing the boulders that were rolling around to be instantly shaken into powder. He descended from the sky, holding the hammer with both hands. He executed the 5th style of the forging dragon, falling star. Boom! The giant king spirit hammer, which was flashing with purple lightning, was like a falling purple meteor as it smashed into the wild boar's head, creating a large amount of violent purple-gold electric snakes. After the wild boar fell, Xiao Xianqin hurriedly flew over and took away Qin Yun, who was standing on the wild boar. Qin Yun panted heavily. He did not completely use his internal supreme force to execute a martial skill, but it consumed a lot of energy. Otherwise, he would not have been able to kill a spirit beast with an extremely strong defense. Annie Xiao, what's wrong? As Qin Yun had expended a great deal of energy, his various aspects had declined. He was unable to sense the commotion in the distance. There's also a spirit beast. Xiao Xianqin's expression was solemn. She looked at the pile of boulders in front of the canyon and said, "There is actually a cave hidden within the canyon's stone walls." Qin Yun turned pale with fright and said, "Aunt Xiao, let's hurry up and leave." "No, I can deal with it. Can you take care of yourself?" Xiao Xianqin asked. "Of course I can." Qin Yun took a deep breath to make himself less tired. He had the 9-yang divine spirit, so his recovery speed was very fast. Xiao Xianqin sensed that he was rapidly recovering. At the same time as she was surprised, she also felt a lot more at ease. Then, She rushed towards the pile of boulders in front of her. Boom! The pile of boulders suddenly exploded. An even larger wild boar appeared. Xiao Xianqin immediately threw out a top-grade body, securing talisman. The wild boar had only taken 2 steps when it was stopped by the body-securing talisman. Xiao Xianqin once again made her zither burn with purple flames before flying out and striking the wild boar's head. Boom! After the wild boar was hit, its head did not explode. Instead, it flew backwards and smashed into a boulder that was more than 10 meters tall. Xiao Xianqin caught the zither that flew back and threw out a body, securing talisman, stopped the wild boar. Her zither flew out once again, and this time it was spinning. It even contained a very strong internal energy, like a spinning purple gold blade. With an extremely fast speed, it flew towards the head of the wild boar. The spinning purple gold zither streaked across the wild boar's head and exploded out with a terrifying sound blade. It strangely cut off the wild boar's head. Bang! The huge wild boar's head landed on the ground and smashed a huge rock. Bang! The huge body of the wild boar also fell to the ground, raising a cloud of dust. Qin Yun hurried over and supported the swaying Xiao Xianqin. He asked worriedly, "Annie Xiao, are you all right?" Xiao Xianqin revealed a charming smile and said, "I'm fine. I'll be fine after resting for a while. We killed a horde of magical beasts." She was also very excited because she and Qin Yun had really done it. "Annie Xiao, there might be a magical beast crystal egg in this horde of magical beasts." Qin Yun helped her sit on a rock and said excitedly, "When I'm better, we'll go take a look together." Xiao Xianqin said, "It's never wrong to be cautious." The two of them rested for a moment. They had recovered quite a bit. Qin Yun also took out the crystal cores of the 2 spirit beasts. The 2 large corpses were also kept into a storage bag. Xiao Xianqin was very cautious. She held Qin Yun's hand and allowed him to use his shadow power. Then, the 2 of them slowly walked through the valley filled with rocks. Not long after, they found the cave where the 3rd spirit beast was hiding. Inside the cave, there were indeed magical beast crystal eggs. Furthermore, there were 12 of them. "We've struck gold," Qin Yun shouted excitedly. And Xiao Xianqin also smiled happily. "Annie Xiao will split it in half." Qin Yun walked over and took 6 of the magical beast crystal eggs. "I don't want it. You can exchange it for Xian points." Xiao Xianqin smiled lightly at him. "This way, you can also quickly become stronger and defeat Xiao Yanglong." "How can that be?" "Annie Xiao, you have put in a lot of effort. You can't do it for nothing," Qin Yun said in embarrassment. Xiao Xianqin chuckled. "Why are you being so polite with me? If it wasn't for you, my martial spirit wouldn't have recovered, let alone stepping into the martial Dao realm. Moreover, it was your body-securing talisman that played a great role. How about this? I only want those Class 8 and 9 magical beast crystals, and then you can refine a few body-securing talismans for me." "All right, then I won't reject Annie Zhao's good intentions." Qin Yun smiled at Xiao Xianqin before taking out his remaining 2 body-securing talismans. He handed them over and said, "I'll give these 2 to you first. When we leave this place, I'll refine them for you." "All right." Xiao Xianqin smiled and nodded. Qin Yun took the remaining magical beast crystal eggs and went with Xiao Xianqin to collect the Class 8 and 9 magical beast crystal cores and their corpses. Ever since the appearance of the magical beasts, Qin Yun had refined many large storage bags. That was why he could store the corpses of many magical beasts. When Xiao Xianqin saw his large storage bag, she also asked for one. After collecting the corpses of the magical beasts, they quickly left the canyon and entered a forest to continue resting and recovering their energy. The forest was relatively safe. There were no traces of magical beasts appearing. After daybreak, Qin Yun recovered and immediately began crafting talismans. He spent more than 10 days to craft 6 top-grade body-securing talismans for Xiao Xianqin. He had originally planned to continue, but was stopped by Xiao Xianqin. "Enough, enough. Let's go back." Xiao Xianqin smiled and patted Qin Yun's head. I'll look for you after I'm done with these. You've been out for so long, I have to bring you back quickly. If Yumei finds out that she can't find me, then it'll be troublesome. Furthermore, I have to tell Yulan that you've returned safely. Annie Xiao, you're so nice. You're Yulan's relative, and also my relative. I will treat you as well as I treat Yulan. Qin Yun said with a smile. You have to do what you say. When I get old in the future, I'll despise me for being old and useless. Although Xiao Xianqin's mature and beautiful face was filled with a sweet smile, a hint of worry flashed across her eyes. Annie Xiao, you won't grow old. You'll definitely be that beautiful forever. Qin Yun caught the worry of the noble beauty in front of him and hurriedly said. Xiao Xianqin faintly sighed. No one can escape the ravages of time, and I'm no exception. Sooner or later, my appearance will fade away with the passage of time. Let's not talk about this anymore. I'll take you back. She smiled gently at Qin Yun before pulling Qin Yun's hand and running together. Because he had held hands with Xiao Xianqin previously, Qin Yun was used to it. Although he did not use his shadow power now, he did not think too much about it. As for Xiao Xianqin, she held Qin Yun's hand along the way. However, she felt a trace of sweetness and warmth in her heart. It caused her heart to race and her thoughts to run wild. 2 days later, Xiao Xianqin brought Qin Yun back to the outside of the Star Xianwu Academy. Before parting, she smiled and pinched Qin Yun's handsome face. Then, she turned around and left with reluctance. Qin Yun strolled around the busy city outside the Star Xianwu Academy before entering the academy and arriving at the Xian Point shop in the central area. The Xian Point shop was always bustling with people coming and going. Especially after the opening of the Star Xianwu Academy, there were even more students coming here. Qin Yun entered a VIP lounge and waited for Pandawe inside. When Pandawe learned that Qin Yun had arrived, he immediately rushed over. Qin Yun, you're finally here. You're the man of the hour during this period of time, Pandawe said with a smile. He was wearing a set of bright red luxurious clothes and had a big belly as he swaggered in. Hello, Elder Fatty. Qin Yun hurriedly stood up and greeted him before looking at the door. When Pandawe saw how cautious Qin Yun was, he hurriedly put away his smile and closed the door. Then he asked anxiously, Qin Yun, do you have some big business to discuss with me? Qin Yun nodded with a smile and said, yes. But before we make the deal, I want to ask you something. Is it about the fairies? Pandawe asked. What fairies? Qin Yun revealed a puzzled expression and said, Elder Fatty, have you heard of the inscription spirit? Chapter 265. Inscription Spirit. Qin Yun was confused by Pandawe's words. He did not know what fairies were, but they seemed to have a lot to do with the inscription spirit. Elder Fatty, tell me about it. Qin Yun said. Fairies are a very strange type of creature. They're mainly bred from the corpses of powerful magical beasts. Let's put it this way. Some magical beasts also have totem inheritances, and these kinds of magical beasts with totems can often become very powerful. Once they die, the totem spirits on their corpses will give birth to fairies. Qin Yun also had a totem, so when he heard about this matter, he was very interested and listened very seriously. Pandawe took a sip of tea and continued, and this kind of fairy usually likes to hide in the bodies of spirit beasts. As long as we kill the spirit beasts, we can force the fairy to appear. This kind of creature is not big and does not have very strong strength. Once we meet it, it will be very easy to capture it. Our Star Xianwu Academy has only caught a few, but none of them are very cooperative with us. These fairies really like to eat magic cores, so we need a large number of magic cores to feed them. Of course, if there is a magical beast crystal egg, then the fairies will be even happier. Qin Yun was puzzled as he asked, why are the Star Xianwu Academy raising these fairies? What does this have to do with the inscription spirit? Pandawe poured a cup of tea for Qin Yun and said with a smile, I'll talk about it later. Don't be anxious. You don't seem to know anything about fairies, so I want you to understand more about them so that you won't be tricked. Qin Yun nodded and drank a mouthful of tea. Pandawe said, Not only is our Star Xianwu Academy raising fairies, the other martial academies and the 4 palaces of Blue Spirit Star Palace are also secretly raising fairies. Why do we consume so many magic cores and magical beast eggs to raise those little things? The main reason is that fairies have a very powerful ability. They can release the totem inscriptions in their bodies, but it is extremely difficult, and they need to be willing to do so. In addition, fairies can also sense totem inscriptions and inscription spirit, which can help people find these things. The inscription spirit is also the problem you are most concerned about. This is a very powerful thing. It is said that there are more than 100 types of inscription spirit, and the top 30 are the most powerful. As long as one has an inscription spirit, they can smoothly carve totem runes. You should know how difficult it is to carve a set of totem runes. Qin Yin quickly nodded and said, "If you want to refine something, you need to carve many sets of totem runes. That is the most difficult." Pan Dawei smiled and said, "Looks like you've tried it yourself." "Indeed." However, if one mastered the corresponding inscription spirit, as long as one had enough mental power, they could easily carve totem runes. For example, if there are some inscription spirits that are tiger-type, then it will be much easier for you to carve tiger-type totem runes. If the inscription spirit you possess is of the spatial type, then it will be very easy for you to carve spatial spirit runes and spatial totem runes. Qin Yin recalled the inscription spirit he had obtained. It was called Beast King. He did not know what kind it corresponded to. "Elder Fatty, do you have books on inscription spirit? For example, the top 30, asked Qin Yin. Pan Dawei shook his head. "No, I only heard about it. There should be books with detailed introductions in the Martial Desolate." Qin Yin was somewhat disappointed. However, he felt that the Beast King inscription spirit he had obtained was definitely not simple. "All right, is the matter with the fairies very popular recently?" Pan Dawei said with a smile. "Of course. Even Xiao Yanglong, the #1 Xian point guy, has come because our Star Xianwu Academy is preparing to auction off a weak fairy that requires Xian points to exchange for. Whoever offers more Xian points, the fairy will belong to them." "What benefits does this have to the Star Xianwu Academy? Xian points don't seem to be useful to you old fellows, right?" Qin Yin curled his lips. "That's because we've been giving out too many Xian points recently. We need to quickly recover them to prevent an imbalance." Pan Dawei said with a smile. "Qin Yin, don't participate in the auction. The fairy we released has a problem. It only likes to absorb the energy of magical beast crystal eggs, so even if you get it, you won't be able to raise it." "What will happen if I don't feed it to the fairies?" Qin Yin asked curiously. "If we don't provide the fairies with energy, they will die. If we provide them with a certain amount of energy and they're satisfied, their bodies will glow and the light will turn into totem tattoos. This is the reason why we spend a large number of magical beast cores. It is because we want to obtain the fairies' totem tattoos." Pan Dawei said. Qin Yin was suddenly very interested in the fairies. He was an inscription master, so he naturally wanted to master more totems. If he could really make the fairy glow, he would be able to obtain a totem tattoo. This would be quite a good deal. He now had the Heavenly Lion totem and the Dragon Tiger totem. For many people, obtaining a totem tattoo was already not bad. However, he felt that the more of these things he had, the better. As for that fairy, it's hard to say if we can find the totem tattoo and the inscription spirit. We don't have much hope in this matter. We just want to obtain the totem tattoo. In the past few days, we have only obtained 1 totem tattoo. We have spent a large amount of magical beast crystal eggs, but we feel that it is worth it." Pan Dawei smiled and asked, "Qin Yin, what big deal do you have with me?" Qin Yin immediately took out 12 magical beast crystal eggs. This caused Pan Dawei's expression to immediately freeze. "Elder Fatty, is this a big deal?" Qin Yin said, with a chuckle. "Every student can only use magical beast cores to exchange for 100 million Xian points every year. However, there is no limit to using magical beast crystal eggs, right?" Pan Dawei took a deep breath and suppressed the shock in his heart. He hurriedly nodded. Yes. You have 600 million Xian points here." Qin Yin took out another 20 Class 9 monster cores and said with a smile, I haven't used the magical beast cores to exchange for Xian points this year, so this can be considered as 100 million Xian points. Yes, this is 700 million Xian points. Pandawei sighed with emotion. You defeated the Genius Academy and obtained 500 million Xian points yourself. Adding them up, it's 2 billion. In terms of ranking, this has already surpassed Xiao Yang Long. The Xian points that Qin Yun had obtained would only appear on the wealth list after 30 days. If he used them up within 30 days, they would not appear. Elder Fatty, when will the auction for the fairies begin? Qin Yun took out his Xian point crystal card and handed it to Pandawei. Pandawei was taken aback. He took Qin Yun's Xian point crystal card and asked in surprise, You want to buy fairies? That little thing is a scammer. It's only because you and I are familiar that I told you. The one who obtained the most fairies should be the Star Xian Wu Academy, right? Qin Yun asked. Of course. That's because our dean has a special technique to find fairies. Now, there are fewer and fewer fairies. Some died of natural causes, some were captured, and some escaped. It's not easy to get them from the magical beast horde. Pandawei sighed. Since you're interested, then I'll stop you. You little fellow, you've obtained so many magical beast crystal eggs that even we, old fellows of the martial Dao realm, are ashamed of our inferiority. The auction will begin in 5 days. I can't guarantee that you will be able to take down that fairy, because Xiao Yanglong and a few fellows from the Star Xian Wu Academy will be accumulating Xian points during this period of time. The power behind them will probably support them greatly and give them the magical beast crystal eggs in exchange for Xian points. Pandawei said, although the 3 great Xian Wu Academies and Blue Spirit Star Palace could distribute Xian points, they could not cheat when distributing them. They had to swear an oath, and the consequences of violating the oath would be very serious. Qin Yun wanted fairies because he wanted totem tattoos. He was well aware of the power of totem tattoos. If he could master more totem tattoos in the future, it would give him a very strong power. Elder Fatty, can you do me a favor? I want to use 20 Class 9 monster cores to exchange for a magical beast crystal egg. I wonder if anyone is willing to make such a deal. Help me ask if there's such a person. Qin Yun said. Pandawei also understood the reason why Qin Yun did this. It was mainly to obtain more Xian points. I'll do my best. Do you have enough Class 9 magic cores? Pandawei asked. No, but I can use my storage bag to obtain it. 1 storage bag for 10 Class 9 magic cores. That shouldn't be a problem, right? Qin Yun said, I'll go refine it now. If you can refine it, I'll take back your storage bag. Pandawei chuckled and said, I'm really lacking in storage bags. Through my channels, I can also sell them for a good price. Qin Yun nodded. Under Pandawei's arrangements, he went to the upper floor of a Xian Point shop and refined a storage bag in a secret room. After obtaining the mental resonance of Xian Pen, he wanted to try and see how much of an improvement he could make in artifact forging. Refining a storage bag was relatively simple, and the requirements for the materials were not high. Qin Yun had been able to refine a storage bag a long time ago. Even then, he could easily refine a storage bag, let alone now. In just one day, he had refined 4 of them. The storage bags he refined were all very beautiful and exquisite. The spirit inscriptions he used were all high-grade spirit inscriptions, and the space inside was very large. If Pandawei were to sell it, he would definitely be able to sell it for a good price. When using the mental resonance Xian Pen to forge artifacts, inscribing spirit inscriptions is as easy as making talismans. A Xian artifact is a Xian artifact. It is indeed a good item. Qin Yun looked at the short jade pen and could not help but sigh. The greatest improvement that the mental resonance Xian Pen had brought him was the finesse of inscribing spirit inscriptions. As long as there was a slight increase in the finesse, it would be a huge improvement for an inscription master. Right now, because Qin Yun's finesse was higher, the storage bag he refined was much larger. It was also a lot bigger. This was the benefit of improving the finesse. 2 days later, Qin Yun walked out of the secret chamber and arrived at the VIP lounge to wait for Pandawei. Pandawei had a wide network, and he was a good person. He and Du Gui were life and death friends. He was also very attentive to the matters that Qin Yun had entrusted him with. Qin Yun waited in the hall. When he saw Pan Dawei enter with a smile, he knew that there was good news. Chapter 266. The Totem's Demand. Thank you, Elder Fatty. Qin Yun hurriedly took out the 9 storage bags he had refined and handed them to Pan Dawei. He said with a smile, "These are the storage bags I refined." Pan Dawei took it and looked at it. He was secretly astonished because Qin Yun had refined them in the past 2 days. Furthermore, he had refined them so well. He handed Qin Yun 90 Class 9 magic cores. 20 Class 9 magic cores in exchange for a magical beast crystal egg. For magical beast crystal eggs are equivalent to 80 Class 9 magic cores. Here, Qin Yun handed another 80 magic cores to Pan Dawei. Pan Dawei smiled and received it. Then he took out the 4 magical beast crystal eggs and said, "I still have to go through the transaction process. Although it's a bit troublesome, it can prevent others from talking about it in the future." After completing the transaction process, Qin Yun had an additional 200 million Xian points on his Xian point crystal card. He now had a total of 1.4 billion Xian points. To be able to obtain so many at such a young age, it could be said to be unprecedented. Exchanging a Class 9 magic core for a magical beast crystal egg and then exchanging it for Xian points, this method is not bad. It's just that a magical beast crystal egg is not easy to obtain. Pan Dawei said as he carefully looked at the storage bags. Qin Yun knew this as well. He could only sigh helplessly. "Elder Fatty, where will the auction be held?" Qin Yun asked. "It's in our Star Xianwu Academy's plaza. When the time comes, anyone can watch. However, to enter the auction seats, you'll have to use your Xian point crystal card to enter. Only with 200 million Xian points will you be qualified to enter the seating area." Pan Dawei said, "When the time comes, you can go directly. Then I'll go back first." Qin Yun bade farewell to Pan Dawei and hurriedly left the Xian Point Hall, returning to the treasure forest. On the way back, he heard many people talking about the fairies. Everyone yearned for the fairies and thought that as long as they obtained the fairies, they would be able to obtain the inheritance of totems. Qin Yun returned to the Star Sun treasure tree. Du Gui was not there. Let me see if the mysterious star steps is easy to learn. He returned to his cave abode and took out the reward he had obtained from the Heaven's Pride Academy. It was a high-grade, Earth-level movement technique, mysterious star steps. He took it out and flipped through a few pages. The more he read, the more shocked he became. This is not something that I can learn by myself right now. I need a teacher who has learned Earth-level martial arts to guide me. I wonder where Teacher Du ran off to. Qin Yun did not dare to learn by himself because it was very easy for him to go berserk. There were many examples that proved that the easiest stage to go berserk was the 9th level martial body realm. In order to compete with Xiao Yanglong a year later, Qin Yun did not dare to take the risk. Originally, Earth-level martial arts were not something that a martial body realm cultivator could learn. Only by stepping into the martial Dao realm would one be able to touch Earth-level martial arts. Of course, there were many geniuses who could begin learning at the 8th or 9th level of the martial body realm. However, there was a great deal of risk involved. It was an unconventional behavior. Looks like I'll have to wait for Teacher Du to return before I go learn. Qin Yun put away the mysterious star steps and took out some beast skins to begin crafting talismans. He was now able to make supreme-grade spirit talismans. If he had time, he would make more and keep them by his side. They would be of great use at critical moments. In the blink of an eye, the auction began. As Qin Yun was crafting talismans, he was not the first to arrive at the scene. Fortunately, he was not late. In the middle of the Star Xianwu Academy's martial arts practice field, there was a high platform. Pan Dawei stood on top of it, reading a book. He would be the one presiding over the auction. The auction would also auction off other things, such as storage bags, spirit artifacts, spirit talismans, and spirit pills. These were all things that were not easy to buy. In the middle of the plaza, there were many fences surrounding it. Only by having enough Xian points on a Xian point crystal card would one be able to enter the seats inside the fence and participate in the auction. With 200 million Xian points, one would be able to obtain the qualifications to enter the seats. There were actually quite a few people who had reached this standard. After Qin Yun entered the seating area, he saw that the people inside were all unfamiliar faces. They were all people who rarely showed their faces, and most of them were middle-aged. There were also quite a few people wearing gorgeous blue robes. They were all from Blue Spirit Star Palace. They were mainly here for the fairy. Qin Yun's entry into his seat also attracted the attention of many people. After all, he was currently famous, and there were many people who had seen him before. Wherever he went, he would become the focus of attention. Everyone knew that Qin Yun also had totem tattoos. Through the totem tattoos, he had obtained extremely powerful strength. Many people had seen his heavenly lion fighting Dragon Claw. At this moment, when everyone saw him appear in the auction's seating area, they knew that he had also come for the fairy. Qin Yun is ranked 8th on the Xian Point wealth list. That was more than a month ago. He obtained 500 million Xian points through the Heaven's Pride Academy, and he originally had tens of millions of Xian points, so he might really be able to take down that fairy. Fairies and fairies have the same totem tattoos. Many people will fight for them. It is said that Xiao Yanglong will also participate. Xiao Yanglong is ranked 1st on the wealth list. Xiao Yanglong will definitely not let him obtain the fairy. Otherwise, it would mean that Qin Yun will become even stronger. One must know that Qin Yun and Xiao Yanglong have agreed to a decisive battle. Just as everyone was discussing, Xiao Yanglong arrived. Xiao Yanglong had originally come with a smile on his face, but when he heard that Qin Yun was also participating in the auction, his face could not help but darken. In the past few days, he had been infuriated by Qin Yun. He had suffered a great loss because of Qin Yun time and time again. He hated Qin Yun to the bones. Qin Yun sat his seat and knew that Xiao Yanglong had arrived. However, he remained silent and closed his eyes to rest, waiting for the auction to begin. As he was quietly waiting, someone suddenly patted him on the shoulder. "Brat, are you here for the fairy?" Lan Fengjin sat beside Qin Yun and asked with a charming smile. Qin Yun had smelled the wild and intoxicating fragrance of the valiant woman earlier. He was not surprised and said with a smile, "Sister Lan, you can't be here to snatch the fairy as well, right?" Lan Fengjin crossed her legs and said with a smile, "Originally, but if you want it, I'll give it to you." She was wearing blue clothes and blue pants. Although her sexy and slender thighs were wrapped in blue pants, Qin Yun could not help but take a few glances at her long legs. "What are you looking at?" Lan Fengjin scolded with a smile. "Stinking brat, what are you thinking?" Qin Yun said with an awkward smile, "I can't help but think of the first time I saw you. I really miss it." Lan Fengjin snorted lightly and patted his head with a smile. "You're already a man with a wife, yet you're still so dishonest." There were more than 100 seats in the auction, and they were quickly filled up. The only people Qin Yun recognized were Lan Fengjin and Xiao Yanglong, Sister Lan. "Are these people here for the fairies?" Qin Yun asked in a low voice. Lan Fengjin nodded. "Most of them are. Look at them. Most of them are middle-aged, and there are some geniuses among them. It's just that they usually keep a low profile. During this period of time, the magical beast crystal eggs have been secretly snatched by people in order to obtain a large number of Xian points. Especially the disciples from Blue Spirit Star Palace. All of them have around 1 billion Xian points." Qin Yun's heart trembled. He was somewhat worried that he would not be able to snatch it because he only had 4 billion Xian points. "Sister Lan, then do you think that Xiao Yanglong has a higher chance of winning compared to the others?" "He has 1 billion Xian points," Qin Yun said. "I heard that he just took 4 magical beast crystal eggs and exchanged them for Xian points. So, I estimate that his Xian points should be around 2 billion to 3 billion. Lan Fengjin said in a low voice. Then, she looked at the few middle-aged men sitting not far to her left and continued. These few fellows also took 6 or 7 magical beast crystal eggs to exchange for Xian points. The number of Xian points they have is about the same as Xiao Yanglong. However, I still feel that Xiao Yanglong has a higher chance of winning because the source of his Xian points was obtained from the Tian Xian Martial School, and he has already accumulated a lot of them. As for the Blue Spirit Star Palace, they have only just begun to have the rules of Xian points. Qinyan nodded. Xiao Yanglong's talent is very terrifying, but he does not have a totem. Otherwise, he would be even more powerful. Sister Lan, how many Xian points do you have? Can you stop him from obtaining the fairies? Lan Fengjin laughed. I'm not an idiot. There must be something fishy about the Star Xian Wu Academy taking out the fairies for auction. I won't be tricked. Of course, I don't have many Xian points, only 3 to 400 million. It's fine as long as it's enough. The auction began. Pandawe was shouting at the top of his lungs as he spoke a lot of nonsense. Then he took out a storage box. This storage box is a low-grade spirit artifact. It has 20 elephants of space, and the starting price is 1 million Xian points. Each bid must not be lower than 100,000. Let's begin. Pandawe shouted. Storage spirit artifacts had always been very popular items. Very quickly, many people participated in the bidding. Not long after, it soared to more than 10 million Xian points. In the end, a gray-clothed middle-aged man won the storage box for 13.2 million Xian points. Next, Pandawe took out a high-grade spirit artifact. It was a saber. The appearance of a high-grade spirit artifact caused many people to tremble in excitement. They were all wild with joy. The starting price was 10 million Xian points, 10 times higher than the previous storage box. And the final price was more than 100 million. Qin Yin did not want these things because he was a high-ranked inscription master who could forge high-grade spirit artifacts. However, he could also understand the price of spirit artifacts through this auction. Following that, a few royal grade spirit pills, a few high-grade spirit talismans, and a dozen high-grade spirit artifacts were auctioned off. Spirit artifacts are all relatively old and second-hand goods. Lan Fengjin smiled and said, but there are still a lot of people fighting for them. These people are really pitiful. Qinyan curled his lips. He also planned to refine some high-grade spirit artifacts when he had time. Ever since he became a high-ranked inscription master, he had never seriously refined a high-grade spirit artifact. Next up will be the most valuable item in our auction. No, that's not an item. It's a fairy. Pandawe laughed. I believe this is what everyone has been waiting for. Sure enough, the audience outside and in the seats were immediately filled with energy as they let out waves of low cries. Chapter 267. A fierce scramble. Pandawe took out a black bee skin bag. It wasn't very big, but it flickered with a weak white light. It was obvious that it was not a simple item. This is a beast bag. It's mainly used to store magical fairies or beasts. If you buy a magical fairy, you will also be able to get a beast bag from us. Pandawe took out a transparent crystal box from the beast bag and placed it on a table. Inside the transparent crystal box, there was a small person the size of a palm. His entire body was surrounded by a faint crystalline luster. The small person had a pair of very beautiful, transparent wings, like that of a butterfly. This little person's ears were sharp and long. He had a pair of dark green eyes and light blue long hair. His small and exquisite body was wrapped in grass and leaves. This palm-sized fairy was a very small and beautiful little girl. She was curled up in the corner of the crystal box, shivering. Everyone, do you see that? This is a magical fairy. Pandawe said, there's no need for me to explain the specific effects. The starting price is 100 million Xian points. Everyone is free to raise the price. Lan Fengjin sighed, what a pitiful little thing. Qinya nodded, and this little thing is really lovable. I must bid for it. Lan Fengjin looked at Qin Yun in surprise. Are you joking? Aren't you just here to join the fun? Qin Yun said with a smile. Just watch. 1 billion. Xiao Yanglong shouted. The entire plaza was in an uproar. The moment Xiao Yanglong opened his mouth, he had shouted such a high price. 1 billion. Someone shouted. It was a middle-aged man. Lan Fengjin said in a low voice. This person belongs to Nangong. 15 billion. A slightly plump middle-aged man shouted with a somewhat anxious expression. Qinyan asked in a low voice, Where's this guy? What palace is he from? Lan Fengjin said with a smile. From the Eastern Palace. They're also the poorest. It is very difficult for them to gather these Xian points. Looking at Xiao Yanglong's attitude, he won't be able to take it down. 2 billion. A young man wearing a blue robe stood up, raised a fan, and shouted. He's from a northern palace. Lan Fengjin whispered to Qinyan. The 4 palaces of Blue Spirit Star Palace were all here. Originally, the Tianxian Martial School and the Ling Xianwu Academy had also sent people over, but they could not keep up at this moment. Their Xian points were limited. 2 billion. Xiao Yanglong's expression changed as he shouted. 23 billion. The youth from the Northern Palace said. The middle-aged man from the Nangong Palace and the fat man from the Eastern Palace couldn't help but look helpless. The onlookers were all shocked. In just a short while, it had soared to 2 billion Xian points. So many Xian points were something that many people could not even dream of. It was hard for them to imagine how they could obtain so many Xian points. Because Xiao Yanglong was in the martial Dao realm, the things that could be exchanged for Xian points were not of much help to him. He did not lack cultivation techniques, but he lacked totem tattoos. If he wanted to become a terrifying martial Dao realm expert, he had to master totem tattoos and obtain totem inheritance from them. 25 billion. Xiao Yanglong shouted, a trace of sweat seeping out of his forehead, because this was his last resort. If he was unable to obtain this magical fairy, it would be hard for him to get another chance in the future. The people who came to bid were not fools. They all knew that there was a problem with this fairy. However, they also knew that the Star Xianwu Academy did not dare to go overboard and take out the problematic fairy to auction. Therefore, they all believed that this fairy was quite valuable. 26 billion. After the youth from the Northern Palace shouted, he sat down and closed his eyes. It was as if this was his limit. Xiao Yanglong gritted his teeth and shouted 29 billion. The youth from the Northern Palace opened his eyes and let out a long sigh. He had already given up. Everyone sighed. The one who succeeded in the end was indeed Xiao Yanglong. 29 billion going once. 29 billion going twice. When Pan Dawei shouted to this point, Xiao Yanglong also heaved a long sigh of relief, a complacent smile on his face. 3 billion. Qinyan suddenly shouted. Hua! The thousands of people in the martial arts practice field immediately burst into cries of alarm. The final bidder was Qinyan, and he had bid 3 billion Xian points. Qinyan, don't cause trouble. Xiao Yanglong shouted angrily. Lan Fengjin, who was sitting beside Qinyan, was also dumbfounded. She knew that Qinyan would definitely not act recklessly. Furthermore, there was a faint smile on his face, which meant that he was extremely confident. How did I cause trouble? Qinyan stood up and looked at Xiao Yanglong with a smile. You only have 600 to 700 million Xian points at most. Where did you get 3 billion Xian points? Aren't you causing trouble? Hurry up and chase him out. Xiao Yanglong was very sure that Qinyan did not have that many Xian points as he shouted at the elders present. Pan Dawei said, Qinyan, take out your Xian point crystal card and let everyone see how many Xian points you have. If you cause trouble here, you will be fined 200 million Xian points. Qinyan calmly took out his Xian point crystal card. After he lit up the Xian point crystal card, it showed 43 billion. Seeing the Xian points displayed on it, everyone present was shocked into silence. The number of Xian points Qinyan possessed was not only 3 billion, but more than 4 billion. Xiao Yanglong was also shocked to the point that his eyes widened and he was speechless. Everyone knew that Xian points could not be faked because the people in charge of trading Xian points had to go through steps like a blood oath. Once they cheated, the consequences of trading Xian points would be very serious, and it was extremely likely that they would die from the backlash of the blood oath. If he wanted to quickly obtain a large number of Xian points, he could only use the magical beast crystal egg to exchange. As for Qin Yun, he was actually able to obtain more than 10 magical beast crystal eggs by himself. This was too inconceivable. Even a hunting team formed by a martial Dao realm cultivator might not be able to obtain that many magical beast crystal eggs in a short period of time. Xiaoyang Long clenched his fists and angrily left the seating area. He angrily left the Star Xianwu Academy. In the end, Qin Yun obtained the pitiful fairy. Qin Yun went up the stage to trade and took the beast bag from Pandawe. The fairy was placed inside. After obtaining the fairy, he smiled and came to Lan Fengjin's side, leaving the martial arts practice field with her. Lan Fengjin snorted lightly. "You little brat, when did you get so many magical beast crystal eggs? You really bought this problematic fairy. I really didn't expect it." "Sister Lan, there is indeed a big problem with this fairy. It only likes to eat magical beast crystal eggs and has no interest in magic cores. That's why it was auctioned by the Star Xianwu Academy. It's because the Star Xianwu Academy can't afford to raise such a little fellow," Qin Yun said with a smile. "So you already knew. All right, looks like you're the only one who can afford it." Lan Fengjin curled her lips and said, "If you have time, come to the Blue Spirit Star Palace and familiarize yourself with the environment inside, because sooner or later, you'll have to go in." "Got it. Sister Lan, do you want to go to my tree hole?" Qin Yun chuckled. "No, I'm just passing by, and I'm here to see you. I'm a saint of Blue Spirit Saint. I have to go kill magical beasts everywhere. I'm very busy, goodbye." After Lan Fengjin finished speaking, she hurriedly walked towards the door. Qin Yun also hurriedly ran back to the tree hole of the Star Sun treasure tree. He wanted to see what was so special about the fairy. After he returned to the tree hole, he took out the transparent crystal box from the beast bag and went over to take a closer look at the fairy. It was only the size of a palm. It hugged its knees and buried its head in its legs. It was trembling in fear. "Kid, my name is Qin Yun. What about you?" Qin Yun asked very gently. From the looks of it, the fairy was a woman. She had a head of beautiful light blue hair and sharp white ears. When she heard Qin Yun's voice, they trembled slightly. The little fairy raised her head and blinked her pair of bright green eyes. Her two transparent wings that were shrouded in fluorescent light could not help but flutter as she looked at Qin Yun curiously. "My name is Mo. The little fairy's voice was very sweet and pleasant to listen to. "Little Mo, are you hungry?" Qin Yun asked with a smile. He was more worried about this matter because this fairy was a scam. It only ate very expensive magical beast crystal eggs. Otherwise, the Star Xianwu Academy would not have taken it out to sell. Mo gently nodded her little head and said in a low voice, "I'm extremely hungry." Qin Yun had thought that the reason why Mo was trembling in the corner was because of fear, but from the looks of it, it was most likely because of hunger. "I heard that you're a scammer. You only eat magical beast crystal eggs, right? Why do the other fairies eat magical beast cores, but you don't?" Qin Yun found it very strange. Because the energy contained in those magical beast cores is too little. I can't eat my fill, and I even have stomachache. Only magical beast crystal eggs are delicious. Moreover, it's very easy to eat and it won't hurt your stomach." Little Mo said sweetly as she looked pitifully at Qin Yun. From the looks of it, she was famished. "But I don't have a magical beast crystal egg right now. I do have a spirit beast crystal core, and it contains quite a bit of energy. Do you want to eat it?" Qin Yun asked. Eat. Mo hurriedly stood up as her dark green eyes emitted a faint glow. Qin Yun closed the door and opened the crystal box. He said, "Don't run away. I bought you with all my might." He took out a spirit beast core and placed it on the table. "I won't run. If I run, I'll definitely starve to death." Mo excitedly flapped her wings and flew out of the crystal box, landing on the spirit beast's crystal core. Her small hands emitted a pale white light as she reached deep into the magic core. She grabbed something that looked like snow and placed it in her mouth to chew. It was extremely fragrant. Qin Yun was alarmed as he watched from the side. The core of a magical beast was extremely sturdy. Even he would not be able to break it easily. However, the palm-sized girl in front of him had used a strange power to easily reach her small hands into the core. Didn't you only eat magical beast crystal eggs? Now that you're eating magical beast cores, you're eating them with such relish. Qinyan said with a smile, "This is a spirit beast core. It can barely enter my mouth." A happy smile appeared on Mo's face. "Do you want to eat with me? I'll give it a try." Qinyan stretched out a finger and took some of the snowflakes that Mo had placed into his mouth. It doesn't seem to be of any use. After he ate it, he did not feel any changes. Maybe it's because you're a human that you can't digest this energy directly. Mo, on the other hand, ate very sweetly. A moment later, the magical beast crystal egg of the spirit beast was completely eaten by the little thing. When Mo was full, she had the strength to fly around the room. Chapter 268. High Priest of the Elves Qinyan's hair was messed up like a chicken's nest by Mo. He was somewhat annoyed and grabbed the little mischievous boy off his head. Mo, you really don't regard me as an outsider at all. Qinyan grabbed Mo and placed her on the table. Mo stuck out her tongue and said with a smile, "You gave me such a precious thing to eat. You must be a good person. You won't bully me." "That's true." Qinyan nodded as well. "I'm a good person, so don't bully an honest person like me. To be honest, do you have to eat a spirit beast crystal core or a magical beast crystal egg? If you always eat like that, it will be very hard for me to raise you." "All right, how long can you eat one?" Mo lowered her head and whispered, "Eating a spirit beast crystal core can fill me up for about 10 days. A magical beast crystal egg can fill me up for a month. Don't abandon me. I will starve to death outside." "You can eat so much that you haven't starved to death even now. That's quite amazing," Qinyan said, somewhat speechlessly. Mo hurriedly said, "Don't worry. If you let me eat my fill, I can also bring you benefits. The reason why I can only eat magical beast crystal eggs and spirit beast cores is because my bloodline is noble, different from other fairies. If it wasn't for the fact that you have a totem bloodline, I wouldn't be talking to you. We fairies refuse to communicate with humans." "Why?" Qinyan became even more interested as he asked. "We magical fairies were born from totems. You have a totem bloodline in your body, which means that you have obtained the approval of the totem. That means that you can also obtain the approval of us fairies." Mo flew to Qinyan's left arm and said, "Your totem is on this arm, right?" Qinyan rolled up his sleeves and said in surprise, "That's right. Originally, I only obtained a totem for no reason. Later on, with the help of a fire lion, my arm obtained the bloodline of a heavenly lion." "That's right. From the very beginning, you obtained the approval of the totem, and later on, you obtained the approval of the totem beast race." Mo looked at the totem on Qinyan's arm and said, "Your totem is only a newborn totem. It can still evolve in the future. As for my power, it can evolve your totem. After the totem evolves, you will have a better understanding of it, and the power it gives you will be even stronger." "Really?" Qinyan was pleasantly surprised as he asked, "I heard that you fairies can release totems. So many people are fighting to buy you. You eat a lot, but you don't release your totem, so they gave up on you." "Yes, I can't release my totem, so they made me hungry for a long time. I hate them." Mo puffed up her face. She was very angry and looked very cute. Mo, she. Qinyan said with a yun. "You Qin, Mo yun, Ashan. Yun, star Qin, yun, mo yun, thus. Mo the or, Mo the Qin, she's Mo Qin," she said. Mo, Qin, he Mo. He had said this in order to establish a cooperative relationship with Mo. Even if he couldn't obtain the totem, it would still be pretty good if he could evolve it. "I promise you, I will help you." Mo nodded and said, "Although I don't have a totem, my abilities are much stronger than the other fairies. They have totems, but they are unable to evolve them. Their power is very limited. In the fairies, I am the high priest and am mainly responsible for the evolution of totems. Qin Yun said with a smile. In that case, those fellows who made you starve didn't know what's good for them. They abandoned you, the high priest, and let me take advantage of you. Mo smiled and said, because you are a good person, good people have good karma. Oh, right, I feel that you have a totem in your body, but that totem doesn't seem to be fusing well with you. She flew to Qin Yun's chest, her exquisite face filled with doubt. In Qin Yun's heart, there was a vibrating inner core. This inner core was formed by absorbing the dragon tiger totem martial spirit, so the dragon tiger totem was also in his heart. Over the past few days, Qin Yun had a very unfamiliar feeling towards the dragon tiger totem. Although it was in his heart, he could not control it. Yes, this is the totem martial spirit I devoured. Qin Yun simply told Mo what had happened. After Mo heard this, she extended her small hand and pressed it on Qin Yun's chest. Then, she released a light blue energy. She closed her eyes and said, "Don't resist. I'll try and see if I can help you." Qin Yun was rather proficient in martial spirits. After all, he had learned the soul refining art. However, he was helpless when it came to totems. He suddenly felt that it was worth it for him to use more than 1,000,000,000 Xian points to buy this little thing. Even if Mo did not flap her wings, she could still float in the air. At this moment, she was hovering motionlessly. She pressed her hand on Qin Yun's chest and injected a mystical energy to control the dragon tiger totem inside the heart. Not long after, Qin Yun felt a movement in his heart. It was as though a powerful beast power from ancient times was roaring within his inner core. Is this the power of an ancient beast totem? It's truly terrifying. Qin Yun seemed to be able to see a gigantic beast in the distant primordial era. Mo closed her eyes and frowned. She looked like she was having a hard time. Qin Yun suddenly felt that with such a miraculous power, it was normal for Mo to have a bigger appetite. Moreover, she was also a high priest in the magical fairies. An hour later, Mo opened her eyes. She looked very tired as she yawned. Qin Yun hurriedly extended his hand and allowed her to land on his palm. "I'm hungry." Mo lowered her head, and her voice was as soft as a mosquito's. She was somewhat embarrassed. Not long ago, she had eaten a spirit beast core. Now that she had to eat it again, she felt somewhat apologetic. Qin Yun rubbed her head with his finger and said with a smile, "It's fine. You've helped me a lot. It's been so hard, and you've consumed a lot of energy. It's normal for you to feel hungry." He took out a spirit beast core and placed it on the table. Then, he placed Mo on it. The originally listless little girl immediately became spirited and began to gorge on the food. This was the only spirit beast core Qin Yun had left. He was also feeling anxious for Mo's next meal. Although Mo could eat a lot, her ability was also very strong. Right now, he could see the glowing dragon and tiger totem tattoo on his heart. This meant that in the future, he could comprehend the dragon and tiger totem just like how he comprehended the heavenly lion totem. Mo, are you really not able to eat a Class 9 magical core? Qin Yun could not help but laugh when he saw her wolfing down the food. "I can eat it, but after I finish eating, my stomach will hurt and the pain will be unbearable. Unless I have no other choice, I won't eat it. Big brother Qin Yun, I don't want my stomach to hurt. Don't give me that kind of thing, okay?" Mo said in a soft voice, looking delicate and charming. All right, cute little girl. I'll do my best to help you get the most delicious food." Qin Yun chuckled and said, "Oh, right, you should know a lot about magical beasts, right? Since you like eating magical beast crystal eggs so much, can you sense the nearby magical beast crystal eggs?" "Of course I can." Mo hurriedly nodded her head, but with your current strength, it's too difficult to steal a magical beast crystal egg. You will die. It's rare for me to meet a good person like you, so I don't want anything to happen to you. If it really doesn't work, I'll endure the stomachache and eat a Class 9 magical core for a period of time. I'd rather have a stomachache than let you take the risk for me. What a kind little cutie. Qin Yun said with a gratified smile. Mo was really hungry, so she ate very quickly. Not long after, she finished eating the magical beast core that was much larger than her. From this, it could be seen that her digestive ability was very strong. She could quickly digest the energy. Big Brother Yun, I don't want to live in that thing. Mo pointed at the transparent crystal box and then at the beast bag. It's very dark and stuffy inside. It's not comfortable at all. Then where do you plan on staying? Qin Yun asked. The beast bag was a storage spirit artifact that could store living beings. It was very different from ordinary storage spirit artifacts, and the difficulty of refining it was also very high. It required special life spirit marks. Qin Yun had also grasped life marks. If he wanted to refine it, it wouldn't be a problem. You have a very strong thing on you. There's a space inside that's very suitable for me to live in. Mo laid on Qin Yun's wrist and gently patted it. She said, "It's right here. I can sense it." Qin Yun hurriedly released his 9-yang divine spirit and said with a smile, "You've discovered my little secret. Let me try and see if I can let you in." The first bead of the 9-yang divine spirit was a very large storage space. It was originally very small, but as the master's strength increased, the interior gradually grew larger. Currently, it was a large space with a length and width of 100 meters. It was white on all sides and very bright. It was not dark at all. With a thought, he successfully placed Mo inside. Mo happily flew around inside and was full of praise for what was inside. The 9-yang divine spirit could gather the spiritual energy of the 9 suns. So the 9 suns' spiritual energy in the first bead was incomparably dense and filled with the aura of life. Big Brother Yin, can you give me a small tree? I like to live on a tree. Mo asked. No problem, but you have to promise me that you won't be mischievous inside and don't touch my things. Qin Yun warned. In the first bead, he had placed many high-grade beast skins and bones. They were all materials for refining talismans. Got it. Mo's little head nodded like a chick pecking at rice. Qin Yun walked out of the Star Sun treasure tree and saw Du Gue hurriedly flying over from afar. Brat, you bought that little thing? Du Gue shouted from afar. The auction was hosted by Pan Dawei, and he was very familiar with Pan Dawei, so he quickly found out about this matter. Yes, teacher. Is there a problem? Qin Yun asked. He was now very certain that Mo was definitely not a scammer. Furthermore, she was a very powerful magical fairy. However, she did not acknowledge others, so she refused to communicate with them. Chapter 269. Tree Totem Qin Yun was overjoyed. He was now very certain that Mo was the high priest of the magical fairies. When Mo, who was in the first bead, heard the voices outside, she shouted worriedly, Big Brother Yun, please don't return me. I don't want to go back. I just want to follow you. You have to believe me. I will definitely bring you benefits. I beg you, don't return me. I beg you. Mo pleaded bitterly. Her exquisite and beautiful face was covered in tears. Her pair of dark green eyes were overflowing with tears. She looked extremely pitiful. Qin Yun looked at Mo in the first bead and felt his heart soften. Even if Mo did not beg him so sadly, he would never hand her over. Teacher, this why? They had clearly given up on that little thing. Why did they take it back? Qin Yun asked. You have to know that I bet my entire fortune on that auction. Du Gue said. The upper echelons of the Star Xianwu Academy did not tell me much. In short, after they met an old man from the Blue Spirit Star Palace, they made a decision. They are willing to return your Xian points and give you 5 magical beast crystal eggs. What if I don't agree? Qin Yun revealed a troubled expression. Du Gue frowned and said, I don't know either. In short, that little thing must have some other powerful aspects, which is why they are in such a hurry to take it back. If you don't agree, they will probably continue to send people over. Right? Where's that little thing? Qin Yun said hesitantly. That little guy's condition is very bad. I haven't played enough yet. I'm not going to return it. Since this little guy made them so anxious, then I must have earned it. Qin, that little thing's taste is crafty. You can't afford to raise it. You have to think it through. Du Gue said. I've decided to raise that little guy. Qin nodded and asked, Teacher, are there any good trees here? Good trees? Of course, it's this star-sun treasure tree. Du Gue looked up at the towering tree and said with a smile. Qin knew that it was a good tree, but he could not get it into the space inside the first bead. Can I get a branch? Qin pointed to the dense foliage and asked. Whatever, there's plenty of it anyway. Just don't finish it. Du Gue waved his hand and said, I'll go back now and tell them that you don't agree to return it. Let them give up. Sorry for troubling you, teacher. After Qin finished speaking, he flew into the air and took out his spirit essence saber to chop off a branch that was more than 20 meters long. This was one of the more tender ones. Although the leaves on it were as big as a wash basin, they were all new leaves. They were all very tender green and even emitted traces of green fluorescence. He placed the branch and a large piece of soil into the first bead and planted the huge branch as a tree. This made Mo extremely happy. She happily flew around the tree and jumped on the big leaves. She was so happy that she couldn't stop laughing. Mo, if they want to take you back, I'll leave this place. You don't have to worry. Qin was also reluctant to hand over the fairy. This little girl approved of him so much, trusted him so much, and already treated him as a relative. How could he bear to part with her? Big brother Yin, where did you get the branches? A tree that can grow this kind of branch is very powerful. Mo said as she sat on a leaf. I'm in the tree hole of this big tree right now. What's wrong? Do you know this tree very well? Qin also knew that the Star-Sun treasure tree was not simple and hurriedly asked. Qin used his mental power to transform it into a voice and transmitted it into the first bead to communicate with Mo, a tree that can grow for many years and become very huge means that there is a totem inside this tree. Mo said happily. If you let me out, I might be able to find the totem of this tree. Qin hurriedly released Mo and let her lie on his shoulder. It's up there. After Mo closed her eyes, she quickly sensed it and said. Qin hurriedly walked out of the tree hole. His speed was on the ground. When he arrived outside, he floated upwards. At a height of 70 meters, Mo told him to stop. At this height, can you enter the middle of the tree? Mo said with certainty. There's Uncle's inner core inside, and there's a totem inside. Qin flew around the tree and quickly found an empty tree hole. He entered the tree hole and dug in again. After working for more than an hour, he finally entered an empty space in the middle of the tree. In the middle of this place, there was actually a transparent crystal pillar. When Qin saw that the transparent crystal pillar was, he could not help but be stunned. That was because deep underground in the Tianshao Imperial Tomb, there was a similar pillar in the circular stone room. That was the source of energy that maintained the operation of the Tianshao Imperial Tomb. Mo, do you know what's going on with this crystal pillar? Qin circled around the crystal pillar and carefully observed its interior. The last time he was in the Tianshao Imperial Tomb, he had obtained the mental resonance Xian pen and an inscription spirit. This is the inner core of the big tree. The totem is hidden inside. I can already see it. Mo flew around the crystal pillar and said, let me try and see if I can read this totem and brand it on your body. Qin stared at the crystal pillar with widened eyes. He could only see a lot of white mist moving inside, but he could not see any totems. And Mo actually said that she could see it. This made him feel very strange. Where's the totem? I don't see it. Qin moved closer and his eyes touched the crystal pillar, but he still could not see anything. Normal. The tree's totem exists in the form of a soul body. Of course you can't see it, but I can. Mo smiled and said, Brother Yun, it's best if the totem is accompanied by a soul body from the beginning. Have you decided where to place the totem? Qin Yin had 3 martial spirits. 2 of them were in his heart and arms. They had already been occupied by the heavenly lion totem and the dragon tiger totem. Right now, only the nether sun martial spirit was still empty. Let's put in my dantian. This is the only place I can put the totem. Qin Yin asked, do I need to do anything? No need. Just lie on the ground, close your eyes, and relax your entire body. As Mo spoke, her body was already surrounded by pale, white threads of light. She controlled the threads of light to pour into Qin Yun's dantian and into the nether sun inner core. Mo, will this hurt the tree? Qin Yun asked worriedly. This star sun treasure tree was of great importance to Du Gui. He did not want to kill this tree. It won't hurt the tree. I'm just copying the totem and fusing it with your martial spirit. It won't hurt the tree at all. However, this totem is still in its infancy and will need a long time to grow. Only then will it be able to be used by you. Mo was gratified to see how concerned Qin Yun was about the tree. All right, since I already have the heavenly lion totem and the dragon tiger totem, it's enough for me to comprehend for a while. Qin Yun nodded. He was amazed by Mo's ability. She had actually fused the tree totem into his nether sun martial spirit so quickly. Mo said, tree totems are very rare. They are much rarer than beast totems and weapon totems. I'm not sure what's so powerful about them, but they're definitely very useful. Qin Yin stood up and looked at the crystal pillar. He suspected that the crystal pillar beneath the Tian Shao imperial tomb was also hiding a totem. Let's go out, Mo said. Don't let anyone discover this place. Qin Yun hurriedly hid Mo and walked out of the dantian of the Star Sun treasure tree. After leaving, he sealed the tree hole. Brother Yun, I just helped you obtain the tree totem and consumed a lot of energy. Maybe in 2 or 3 days, I'll be hungry. Mo said in embarrassment, her voice very soft. Don't worry, I will definitely get you food as soon as possible. Qin Yun said with a smile. Mo had helped him obtain a rare tree totem. Even if he had to spend a few more spirit beast cores, it would still be worth it. Brother Yin, I just changed my wings. If they still refuse to give up on me, take out your wings and give them to them. Tell them that I starved to death. That way, they won't make things difficult for you. Qin Yin took out a pair of small transparent wings from his storage space. They were very small and beautiful, as though they were meticulously crafted from crystal. He carefully put away the pair of wings and returned to his tree hole to wait for news from Du Gui. Du Gui had a relatively high status in the Star Xianwu Academy. Otherwise, the upper echelons of the Star Xianwu Academy would have personally come over to negotiate with Qin Yun about the ferry. Qin Yun waited in the tree hole for more than an hour before he heard Du Gui shout from outside. Qin Yun, come out for a moment. He hurriedly walked out and sensed a few strong auras. There were a few martial Dao realm experts outside. After leaving, he saw Du Gui and Pandaowei. Beside them, there were 5 old men with white beards hanging down to their chests. Their hair reached their waists, and their faces were covered in wrinkles. 3 of them were dressed in white robes, while the other 2 were dressed in blue robes of the Blue Spirit Star Palace. Qin Yun, I heard that you are unwilling to hand over the ferry, right? The conditions we offered are quite good. Don't be greedy. A hunchbacked old man said coldly. His tone was not good. I bought the ferry, and it belongs to me. What's there to hand it over or not? Qin Yun said with a sneer. Back then, you were the one who gave up on the ferry. Why are you taking it back now? You disrespectful junior. How dare you talk back? The hunchbacked old man shouted angrily as he pushed Qin Yun back. Du Gui hurriedly walked over and stood in front of Qin Yun. He said, Elder Zhang, young people do have a bad temper, but you were in the wrong first. I was wrong first? It was clearly him who knew that the ferry was very precious and wanted to keep it for himself. Elder Zhang said angrily, You were the one who took it out for auction. If I can buy it, it's mine. I can do whatever I want. It's none of your business. Chapter 270. regret when the elders saw Qin Yun contradict them in such a manner. Their faces were filled with anger. This was because they felt that as long as it was a junior, no matter what, they would have to be respectful in front of them. Even if they were in the wrong, the younger generation would have to respect them. As for Qin Yun, a junior in front of them, he was speaking so rudely to them. This was something that had never happened before. Du Gue naturally knew Qin Yun's temper. He also felt that the few elders were in the wrong. They relied on their seniority and strength to look down on others. Qin Yun, hurry up and hand over that fairy. If you contradict me again, I'll immediately expel you from the Star Xianwu Academy. Elder Zhang sneered a few times. This was the first time Qin Yun had seen such an old person in the Star Xianwu Academy. With a glance, one could tell that he was an elder of the Martial Arts Academy who had lived for many years. Although his lifespan was coming to an end, his cultivation was robust, his strength was powerful, and his status and seniority were both very high. Therefore, they had great power in the Star Xianwu Academy. That fairy is dead. It should have starved to death. I was already very angry when I bought such a dead thing, but you want to take it back with such a vile attitude? I'm even angrier. Qin Yun did not want to leave the Star Xianwu Academy either, so he could only endure it. He took out the beautiful wings that Mo had exchanged for. Everyone was stunned when they saw the crystal wings on his palm. You actually dared to kill that fairy. Elder Zhang was furious as he shouted. What do you mean I killed it? It was obviously you who were unwilling to feed it and starve to death. I don't have a magical beast crystal egg to feed her. She died on her own. What can I do? I spent more than 1 billion Xin points to buy this fairy, and then killed her? Are you guys crazy? Do you think I would do such a stupid thing? If the fairy was still alive, I would have returned it to you long ago. I would have returned more than 1 billion Xin points and a few magical beast crystal eggs. I bought such a scam and suffered heavy losses. Who am I going to reason with? Elder Zhang's expression turned extremely ugly as he said angrily, Little bastard, hand over your Star Xianwu Academy's Jade token. From today onwards, you are no longer a student of our Star Xianwu Academy. We don't have students like you. Qin Yun was also very infuriated. He took out the identity Jade token and ruthlessly threw it on the ground. With old thieves like you in the Martial Arts Academy, it's a foul atmosphere. I don't want to be a student of the Star Xianwu Academy. You're infuriating me to death. Angered, Boss Zhang raised his hand to strike. Du Gue hurriedly went over and blocked Qin Yun behind him. He shouted, Elder Zhang, it's not right for you to expel a student from the academy without permission. According to the rules of the martial courtyard, this matter needs to be approved by the dean. Now that the dean is in seclusion, this matter should wait for him to come out. Old Zhang sneered, Dean? When she sees me, she has to be respectful to me. If I drive out a guy like Qin Yun, she will also approve of me. Furthermore, it was Qin Yun who caused us to lose a high priest to the fairies. That was a sacrifice of a treasure. If he dies, there's nothing left. There are only a few of them, and most of them are dead. Pandawei said, You were the one who agreed to auction off that fairy. Everyone knows that it has nothing to do with Qin Yun. Furthermore, that fairy has indeed been starved by us for many days. After Qin Yun obtained it and did not feed it, he would indeed starve to death. You two actually went against me. Elder Zhang became even angrier. I'm just speaking the truth. In short, I'll say the same thing to the dean when the time comes. Pandawei was also well aware of Qin Yun's strength. A 17-year-old kid was able to forge many storage spirit artifacts. Just based on this, his status was definitely not inferior to these overbearing old fellows. The few elders beside Elder Zhang also hated Qin Yun very much. However, they did not say a word. Elder Zhang, let's kick Qin Yun out of the Star Xianwu Academy. An old man walked over and was about to grab him. Wait! Qin Yun shouted loudly before looking at Pandawei. He asked, Elder Fatty, I heard that as long as you are an inscription master certified by the Divine Inscription Palace, you can freely enter and exit the 3 Xian level martial academies, right? Pandawei nodded. That's right. This is our agreement with the Divine Inscription Palace. As far as I know, Qin Yun is only a beginner-level inscription master. A blue-robed elder sneered. Only intermediate-level inscriptionists can freely enter and exit the Xian-level martial arts academy. Qin Yun sneered and took out a golden badge. He said, I'm a high-ranked inscription master. It shouldn't be a problem for me to freely enter and exit the Xian-level martial arts academy, right? The golden badge was indeed a high-ranked inscription master. Those few elders had lived for a long time, and they knew high-ranked inscriptionists. They often interacted with high-ranked inscriptionists, so they were naturally very familiar with this kind of badge. Only a high-ranked inscription master would have it. Furthermore, after holding it, it would release a golden glow to prove that it was a real badge. Du Gue, who was at the side, was dumbfounded. He finally understood why Qin Yun had helped him refine things so quickly. It was because he was a high-ranked inscription master. Pan Dawei had previously received a few storage bags from Qin Yun, so he was well aware of his artifact forging skills. However, he never expected that he would actually reach the level of a high-ranked inscription master. The few old men were dumbfounded by what they saw. They could not help but feel regret in their hearts. They knew very well what it meant for Qin Yun to be a high-ranked inscription master at the age of 17. It meant that the potential of the Tao of inscriptions was enormous. From today onwards, I have nothing to do with the Star Xianwu Academy. I won't stay in a place with old villains like you for long. Qin Yun put away the badge and turned to enter the tree hole. They finally understood why Qin Yun said that he did not care about the Star Xianwu Academy. It was because with his status as a high-ranked inscription master, he would be popular wherever he went. Seniors, thanks to all of you, such an outstanding inscription master actually hates the Star Xianwu Academy so much. I will definitely inform the dean of this matter. Pan Dawei sneered a few times before flying out of the treasure forest. Elder Zhang and the others had ugly expressions on their faces. Although it was their fault, they would not admit it no matter what. They glared angrily at Qin Yun's tree hole before soaring into the air and leaving the treasure forest. Du Gue hurriedly entered Qin Yun's tree hole and saw Qin Yun sitting in the hall. Teacher, I've troubled you. Qin Yun sighed and said with some guilt, It's fine. It was those old fellows who were in the wrong to begin with. I can't let you stay, and I feel very guilty. Du Gue smiled and patted Qin Yun on the shoulder. He said, You brat, you've long since become a high-ranked inscription master. I'm proud to have a student like you. Teacher, these old thieves in the Star Xianwu Academy make me very worried about little Mei Lian. The reason why Qin Yun did not leave immediately was because he wanted to meet Qi Mei. Don't worry about that. Little Mei Lian's teacher is not someone those old thieves would dare to offend. I'm a little worried that little Mei Lian will be taken away by her teacher and pass through the Cloud Dragon mountain range. When Du Gue said this, his face was filled with worry. Qin Yun was also worried. However, he was very open-minded. If she's strong enough, it's nothing. She definitely doesn't want little Mei Lian to get hurt. If she doesn't have absolute confidence, she wouldn't cross the Cloud Dragon mountain range. If she has the ability to bring little Mei Lian across the Cloud Dragon mountain range, it wouldn't be a bad thing for little Mei Lian. That's true. After crossing the Cloud Dragon mountain range, one would be in the martial desolate land. There were many martial arts sects and martial arts flourished. For warriors with good aptitude, it was extremely beneficial. However, it also means that the competition is even greater. Du Gue said, Qin Yun did not know when he would be able to meet Qi Mei. He could not keep waiting like this. Teacher, if little Mei Lian comes looking for me, tell me about the situation. Tell her not to worry about me and to properly cultivate with her teacher. There will always be a chance to meet again in the future. Qin Yun was planning to get a magical beast crystal egg for Mo to eat to her heart's content. Du Gue nodded. I will tell her. Do you have any plans for the future? To be honest, I've already taught you everything I can. With your perception, you will definitely be able to master the spirit concentration kill and imperial spirit technique. I plan to walk around and maybe stay in the main hall of the Divine Inscription Palace for a while. Qin Yun said, there are also quite a few resources in the Divine Inscription Palace. They will be of great help to me. Du Gui also knew of the battle between Qin Yun and Xiao Yanglong. He hoped that Qin Yun would win when the time came. After Qin Yun bade farewell to Du Gui, he went to the central area of the Star Xianwu Academy. He arrived at the Xianpoint Hall and looked for Pan Dawei. When Pan Dawei learned that Qin Yun had arrived, he hurried to the VIP lounge. Qin Yun, why are you looking for me? If I can help you, I will definitely help you. Pan Dawei chuckled. He was not as short-sighted as those old fellows. Elder Fatty, do you have any spirit beast cores on hand? Qin Yun asked. This was Mo's food. There are 3 more. You want them? As Pan Dawei spoke, he took them out. Qin Yun took out 2 top-grade body-securing talismans and said, Elder Fatty, these 2 are top-grade body-securing talismans. They will be of great help to you and can lock down spirit beasts. All right, I'll trade. Although Pan Dawei was alarmed, he did not doubt the power of Qin Yun's body-securing talisman at all. It was refined from a high-grade body-securing inscription. Furthermore, it was a bone talisman, so its power could naturally be predicted. He was still very shocked that Qin Yun could actually refine top-grade spirit bone talismans. After obtaining the 3 spirit beast cores, Qin Yun felt a lot more at ease. Elder Fatty, we'll meet again someday. Thank you very much for your help. You have given me a lot of convenience. Qin Yun cupped his hands at Pan Dawei and said with a smile, You're welcome. I have benefited greatly from cooperating with you. Pan Dawei laughed and said, It's my luck to meet such an interesting young man like you. All right, Elder Fatty, if a little girl called Chimalian comes, I hope you can take care of her. Qin Yun said with a smile. No problem. Pan Dawei also knew that Qin Yun would not stay in the Star Xianwu Academy for long. After all, he had offended a few elders. After Qin Yun left the Xianpoint Hall, he hurriedly walked out of the Star Xianwu Academy and flew above the myriad star lake. Chapter 271. Beast King Qin Yun was filled with curiosity towards Xie Keru. However, he knew that the secrets she was hiding would definitely involve a lot of people. Without sufficient strength, it was impossible for him to participate. In less than a year, I will have to fight Xiao Yanglong. As Qin Yun flew, he looked at the myriad star lake. His heart felt extremely heavy. Mo, who was in the storage space, was happily eating a spirit beast core. Beside her, there were 2 spirit beast cores. Qin Yun had obtained 3 spirit beast cores so quickly, which made her extremely happy. Now, when she thought about how she wouldn't have to starve for the next 30 days, she was extremely happy. After flying out of the myriad star lake, Qin Yun headed straight for the mysterious inscription Spirit Mountain. Without Lan Fengjin accompanying him, he did not dare to run around during the day. He had to travel at night using the Shadow Force. What made him pleasantly surprised was that Mo, who was in the storage space, could actually sense the spirit beasts outside. As long as there were spirit beasts nearby, she would issue a warning. This would allow Qin Yun to avoid them. He could only travel at night. This caused Qin Yun to spend a few days to reach the top of the mysterious inscription Spirit Mountain. Qin Yun floated above the clouds as he looked at the divine inscription palace that was illuminated by the light of the stars and moon. Although this was not the first time he had come, he was still shocked once again. The great hall that stood at the peak of the mysterious inscription Spirit Mountain was solemn and majestic. From afar, one could feel an invisible pressure assaulting them. Even flying magical beasts did not dare to get too close. Qin Yun flew over and arrived at an entrance to the barrier. He entered the barrier and walked along the spacious streets that were like terraces beside the mysterious inscription Spirit Mountain. He circled around the mountain and climbed to the peak. He was dressed in black and wore a bamboo hat. This kind of attire was not easy to recognize. After entering the hall of the Divine Inscription Palace, he used his high-level inscription master badge to enter a special corridor. There was a staircase that led upstairs to a luxurious suite that was prepared for high-level inscriptionists. Qin Yin entered his luxurious suite and came to a large floor-to-ceiling window. He released Mo. After Mo came out, she looked at the distant sea of clouds that was enveloped by the light of the stars and moon. She could not help but exclaim, "So beautiful! What is this place?" Divine Inscription Main Palace, a place specially for inscription masters. Qin Yin said with a smile, "I am very safe here. Big Brother Yin, I have a special ability. I can see the dark lines, and I know the miraculous uses of the mysterious lines. You are an inscription master. I can help you a lot." Mo stood on Qin Yin's shoulder and said happily in his ear. Qin Yin was shocked. This magical fairy could actually see the dark lines. This was simply a heaven-defying ability. Mo, does that mean you also understand the Tao of inscription? He quickly asked. "I don't really understand, but I can remember the runes and show them to you. It's just that this will consume a lot of energy and make me hungry." Mo rubbed her stomach and whispered, "I'm fine." Qin Yin placed her on his palm and said with a smile, "If you can see the dark lines, you can let me master many powerful runes. This will be of great help to me. It doesn't matter how much you eat." Mo smiled sweetly. "I'm very happy to be able to help Big Brother Yin." Qin Yin suddenly thought of something and took out a stone tablet. On it was a complete set of royal grade spirit inscriptions. This was given to him by Lan Fengjin. Back then, she had even asked him to help her refine a top-grade spirit talisman. He placed the stone tablet on the table and asked, Mo, can you tell what kind of inscription this is? What kind of ability does it have?" Mo flew to the side of the stone tablet and laid on it. She closed her eyes, and a faint white glow seeped out from her body. The white glow was like a mist that quickly enveloped the royal grade spirit inscription on the stone tablet. Not long after, Mo opened her eyes and said, "This is a royal grade spirit inscription. It's called the longevity spirit inscription and can increase one's lifespan. However, it can only be used by people under the age of 500 to increase their lifespan." "How much can it increase?" Qin Yin raised his eyebrows as he felt extremely shocked. 10 to 20 years. It mainly depends on whether or not the inscription master can unleash the power of the spirit inscription. This kind of spirit inscription is very useful. After all, it can go against the heavens and forcefully extend one's life. Mo seemed to be alarmed by the power of the spirit inscription. Qin Yin finally understood the use of the royal grade spirit inscription that Lan Fengjin had given him. However, he did not understand why Lan Fengjin would hide this matter. "It's not easy for me to use this kind of spirit inscription to craft talismans. The materials I need must be very special," Qin Yin said as he put away the stone tablet. Lan Fengjin had previously asked him to create this kind of talisman and had provided him with a special talisman paper. That kind of talisman paper was very special, and he did not know what it was made of. Mo smiled and said, "Brother Yun, you still have a long time. There's no rush to refine this kind of talisman, right?" Qin Yin said, "Of course I'm not in a hurry to use this kind of talisman. However, if I can refine it, I can obtain a large amount of resources. I can use this kind of talisman to exchange for magical beast crystal eggs or something." When she heard about magical beast crystal eggs, Mo's eyes immediately lit up. However, she was only thinking about it. "I haven't eaten a magical beast crystal egg in a long time. While I was at the Star Xianwu Academy, they always fed me class 8 or 9 magical beast crystal cores, which made my stomach hurt for a long time." When Mo mentioned the past, her face was filled with fear. Her dark green eyes were filled with sadness. Qin Yin gently stroked her hair with his fingers and said with a smile, Mo, if you're with me, you won't have to suffer anymore. I promise I won't let you have a stomachache. And I believe in Brother Yun." Mo nodded and smiled sweetly. Then she happily flew around the room. Qin Yin looked at the materials he had stored and said, Mo, I'm preparing to refine a puppet beast. I don't know how long it will take. But you don't have to worry. I'll prepare enough spirit beast cores for you first. Mo was extremely at ease with Qingyun. Ever since she got together with Qingyun, she had never been hungry. Qingyun first refined 3 body securing talismans before bringing them to the counter to exchange. There weren't many spirit beast cores here, so he could only use a top-grade body securing talisman to exchange for 2 spirit beast cores. Right now, there were still 4 magical beast cores for Mo to eat, enough for 40 days. 40 days should be enough for me to refine a puppet beast, right? Qingyun felt that it was about time. When he saw Zhuo Chuan, he would ask Zhuo Chuan for help. He returned to his suite and entered the secret room. He took out many spirit beast bones and royal grade spirit iron to refine a large amount of royal grade bone steel. A puppet beast refined from royal grade bone steel should be able to withstand the attacks of a spirit beast. Even a class 9 magical beast shouldn't be a problem. Qingyun placed a large number of spirit beast bones into the furnace. After burning them for a period of time, he took them out and placed them on the table for forging. Refining a large amount of royal grade bone steel was a very long process. Qingyun spent a full 15 days before he managed to refine enough bone steel. The royal grade bone steel he refined were all blue in color and weighed more than 1,000 kilograms. This 10,000 kilograms of royal grade bone steel was molded into a blue lion. The lion wasn't very big. It was only 2 to 3 meters long, far from the size of the silver lion from before. Although it wasn't big, it didn't mean it wasn't strong. Qingyun felt that if he refined it a little smaller, it would become more flexible. Furthermore, he could save a lot of royal grade bone steel. The interior of the blue lion was empty. It was mainly used to store all kinds of pearls that contained special abilities. For example, the strength-storing pearl that stored energy, the thunder-fire pearl that exploded with the power of thunder and fire, or the chi-gathering pearl that was engraved with chi-gathering runes, and so on. The most important part of the puppet beast was the engraving of the totem inscriptions. This was also the most time-consuming. Are you going to carve the totem inscriptions? Mo had been outside the entire time, chatting with Qingyun to prevent him from being bored. She also learned about the process of refining the puppet beast. Yes, this is a very difficult stage. Qingyun had a serious expression as he gripped the mental resonance Xian pen tightly. He looked at the Xian pen and asked, Mo, have you heard of the inscription spirit? Previously, Panda Wei had said that the fairies could sense the inscription spirit. With a fairy, it was possible to find the inscription spirit. After he obtained Mo, too many things had happened, causing him to forget to ask. Mo hurriedly nodded. Of course I've heard of it. It's a soul body formed from inscriptions. It's extremely rare. It's said that in this world, only one inscription spirit can be born every 10,000 years. Then have you heard of the inscription spirit called the Beast King? Qingyun asked again. Beast King. Mo cried out in alarm. That's a very strong inscription spirit. As long as I can obtain this kind of inscription spirit, I'll be able to get twice the result with half the effort when carving the beast totem. Qingyun hurriedly handed the mental resonance Xian pen in his hand to Mo and said, When I obtained this, there is an inscription spirit called the Beast King that fused into the mental resonance Xian pen. Help me take a look and see if there really is an inscription spirit inside. Mo hugged the Xian pen and closed her eyes to sense it. Her light blue long hair gradually emitted a blue light. A moment later, she suddenly opened her eyes. Her dark green eyes were filled with shock. It's really a Beast King. Brother Yun, there really is an inscription spirit inside, and it's a Beast King. Mo was astonished. How did you get it? This inscription spirit is indeed a good thing. Qingyun was pleasantly surprised as he hurriedly asked, How do I use it? Generally speaking, the inscription spirit is only used after being fused with it. Now, the Beast King's inscription spirit has fused with this thing. I'm not sure. Mo looked at the Xian pen and said with a frown, Maybe I can just use it to carve totem marks. I'll give it a try. Qingyun gripped the Xian pen tightly and injected the power of the blood soul into it. He began inscribing the heavenly lion totem mark. He had the experience of refining the silver lion puppet before and had also carved the heavenly lion totem mark. He still had some experience. Now that he was carving on royal gray bone steel, the difficulty was much greater than last time. Now that he had the cultivation of the 9th level martial body in the Xian pen, it would be much easier. He began to carve his heavenly lion totem mark. He felt that it was a bit strenuous, but it was still within his limits. However, it would be very difficult to completely carve the heavenly lion totem mark. Chapter 272. Spirit Lion King. According to MO, the Beast King inscription spirit could allow a person to better grasp beast-type spirit inscriptions or beast-type totem inscriptions. The mental resonance Xian pen contained the Beast King inscription spirit. She was not sure how to use it. A few hours passed. Qin Yin was already sweating profusely. It was mainly because it was extremely strenuous to carve totem inscriptions on the royal grade bone steel. He needed to consume a lot of blood soul power in order to carve the totem inscription into the royal grade bone steel. The puppet beast he refined this time was very different from the last time. This time, after forging the entire lion's body, he used a special technique to carve the heavenly lion totem inscription into the royal grade bone steel and perfectly fused with it. Although this method could make the puppet stronger, the process of carving the totem inscription was extremely difficult. I shouldn't have used royal gray bone steel. If I had used top gray bone steel, it might have been much easier. Qin Yin felt that he could succeed, but it would take a long time. Just as he was about to give up, he suddenly felt his consciousness fuse with the mental resonance Xian pen. It was as if he could see what was under the tip of the pen through the mental resonance Xian pen. At that moment, the mental resonance Xian pen fused with his body and mind. What surprised him was that a complete set of heavenly lion totem could not help but appear in his mind. Unknowingly, his heavenly lion arm tightly gripped the mental resonance Xian pen and began to move rapidly. The power used was also from the inner core of the heavenly lion's arm. The strange energy released was not the power of the blood soul, but it was better than the power of the blood soul. The power of the heavenly lion bloodline. Qin Yin was secretly pleasantly surprised. The inscription spirit had finally played a role. Right now, he naturally did not feel any mental pressure at all. He did not need to be very serious to be able to carve the heavenly lion totem inscription. It was as if there was a strange power that stimulated his potential, allowing him to quickly carve the heavenly lion totem inscription. The process of carving was natural and smooth, with a high degree of precision. What was even more terrifying was that the 9 Yang divine spirit was frantically absorbing the 9 suns' spiritual energy to replenish the loss of the inner core. It nourished the heavenly lion bloodline in the heavenly lion's arm, allowing the bloodline to maintain sufficient energy. It's working. Mo, who was at the side, flew around happily. Brother Yun, I can feel that the inscription spirit is very active now, as if it has life. And Qin Yin is also very happy. He originally thought that he would not be able to complete the remaining totem runes. With the help of the inscription spirit, Qin Yun's speed in carving the heavenly lion totem rune is very fast, and the precision is very high. This allows the totem rune to unleash even stronger power. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 days passed. Qin Yun's newly refined puppet beast had finally been completed. It had taken him a month to refine it. Now, the blue lion was walking around the room, while Mo was sitting on the lion's head. A blue lion doesn't look good. Can you change the color? Mo said, It looks weird. Now that you mention it, it's true. Qin Yin thought for a moment before injecting a golden flame into the crystal-clear surface of the royal grade bone steel, causing the lion to turn golden red. Furthermore, its entire body surged with flames, making it look like a flaming heavenly lion. The greatest use of puppet beasts was their ability to fight. The better the materials, the stronger the defense and power. The one that Qin Yun had refined was made from royal greybone steel. Logically speaking, even a royal great spirit artifact might not be able to destroy it. Let's call it the Spirit Lion King. Qin Yun patted the lion's head and said with a chuckle, "With this guy, hunting spirit beasts will be much easier." In fact, Qin Yun wanted a royal great spirit artifact, like the royal spirit cannon, even more. 2 shots would be enough to cripple a spirit beast. When he thought of the royal spirit cannon, he suddenly looked at Mo. Mo could see the dark lines and quickly memorize them. This meant that the spirit inscriptions on the spirit artifacts that she had seen could all be memorized. As long as he could obtain the dark lines of the royal spirit cannon, he would be able to replicate the royal spirit cannon. Looks like I have to make a trip to the center of the first town and borrow the royal spirit cannon to study. Qin Yun was eager to make a move. If he had a good spirit artifact and combined it with his body-securing inscription, even without a small team, he would be able to annihilate a large group of magical beasts by himself. The more he thought about it, the more excited he became. Qin Yun put away the Spirit Lion King and Mo and walked out of the suite. He went to the main hall of the Divine Inscription Palace to ask the old man if Zhuo Chuan had returned. Zhuo Chuan returned. The moment he learned that a high-ranked inscription master wanted to see him, he immediately rushed to his secret guest hall. When he arrived and saw that it was Qin Yun, he could not help but laugh. "Qin Yun, you really came to the Divine Inscription Palace. I was still wondering where you would go after being chased out of the Star Xianwu Academy." Zhuo Chuan stroked his long beard as he smiled. "Great Elder, you know that I was kicked out of the Star Xianwu Academy." Qin Yun was somewhat surprised. He had thought that the elders would keep this matter a secret. Zhuo Chuan laughed. "I know. You use more than 1 billion Xin points to buy a problematic fairy. Later on, those old fellows discovered that the fairy that they thought was problematic was actually the high priest of the fairies. Then, they want to find you to get it back. However, the fairies starved to death in your hands. So in a fit of anger, they chased you out of the Star Xianwu Academy. This must be what my teacher said," Qin Yun said with a smile. Only Du Gui and Pan Daowei knew the details of this matter. Zhuo Chuan nodded and said with a smile, "Many people think that this is a huge blow to you, but seeing how happy you are, it doesn't seem to have affected you at all. Your arranged battle with Xiaoyang Long is only about a year away. Aren't you anxious at all?" "Of course I'm anxious," Qin Yun said with a bitter smile, "but there's nothing I can do about it. I can't force things like increasing my strength. I have to be steady and not go berserk." Zhuo Chuan's expression turned serious as he nodded. "You must be steady. All right, why are you looking for me?" "Great Elder, I have 2 top-grade body-securing talismans here. Take a look at their quality first." Qin Yun took out 2 body-securing talismans and handed them over. "I need to exchange for something." Zhuo Chuan took it and looked at it. He said with a frown, "Did you use a top-grade body-securing talisman to exchange for 2 spirit beast cores?" "Yes. I want to exchange for a magical beast crystal egg now," Qin Yun said. "The top-grade body-securing talisman you refined is of very good quality. The finesse of your inscriptions seems to have increased by quite a bit." Zhuo Chuan looked carefully, and his eyes were filled with shock. Qin Yun hurriedly asked, "How much has it improved?" "Previously, the spirit inscriptions you inscribed were between the 3rd and 4th level, and now they are at the 5th level. This kind of improvement is very big." Zhuo Chuan took out a crystal mirror and looked at the spirit inscriptions on the top-grade body, securing talisman. The crystal mirror flashed, and 5 threads flowed out. Level 5 finesse. Zhuo Chuan took a light breath. "Even I can only carve at the 6th level of finesse. This is the result of many years of hard work, and you're not even 20 years old, and you already have a 5th level of finesse. What a freak." "Then, can my 2 top-grade body-securing talismans be exchanged for a magical beast crystal egg?" Qin Yun said with a grin. That was the food that Mo had been yearning for a long time. "Of course not. I happen to have one. To be honest, During this period of time, magical beast crystal eggs have become more and more difficult to obtain. Many magical beast crystal eggs have successfully hatched, and large magical beast hordes have become stronger and stronger. Zhuochuan sighed and took out a purplish-red magical beast crystal egg and handed it to Qinyan. The energy contained within a magical beast crystal egg was very useful to martial Dao realm cultivators. As for martial artists below the martial Dao realm, they could only absorb a very weak amount of energy from it. Qinyan, what do you want the magical beast crystal egg for? Zhuochuan asked curiously. I want to use it to exchange for things with others. Qinyan said. Magical beast crystal eggs did indeed have this use. Many martial Dao realm cultivators were very willing to accept magical beast crystal eggs. Zhuochuan nodded his head. It's a pity that the high priest of the fairies is dead. Otherwise, you would have picked up a treasure. Is there anything powerful about the high priest of the fairies? Qinyan asked. It can evolve totem inscriptions. There are many levels of totem inscriptions, and the totem inscriptions you have mastered are the most basic. It is extremely difficult to evolve totem inscriptions. If you have the help of the High Priest of the Fairies, it will be very easy. Also, the High Priest of the Fairies can repair totem inscriptions and all kinds of damaged inscriptions. For example, there are many ancient Xian artifacts that have totem inscriptions or inscriptions carved on them. However, because of the passage of time, the inscriptions have been damaged. If one does not understand the inscriptions within, it would be difficult to repair them. However, the High Priest of the Fairies does not need to understand the inscriptions to be able to use their miraculous powers to repair them. Zhuochuan said with a smile, of course, they can repair inscriptions and totem inscriptions as well as destroy them. What a pity they died just like that. Qinyan was overjoyed. He had indeed picked up a treasure. He secretly cursed those elders for losing Mo. They had actually made Mo's stomach hurt for so long and even made her starve. When he thought of the pitiful Mo, who was starved to the point of eating something that would cause a stomachache, he felt his heart ache. Such a cute little fairy had endured such a long period of torture. Just thinking about it made his heart ache. Qinyan planned to stay in the Divine Inscription Palace for a period of time. He wanted to obtain as many resources as possible. He and Zhuochuan were chatting and laughing. After walking out of the guest hall, they saw a group of people covered in wounds in the great hall outside. Great Elder. When an old man in a sorry state saw Zhuochuan, he hurriedly walked over. We've been attacked. 500 miles away from the Spirit Mountain, there is a city that we are responsible for protecting. It was suddenly attacked by a very powerful horde of magical beasts. After we rushed over, we were no match for that horde of magical beasts and suffered heavy casualties. Qinyan carefully looked at the group of injured people. They were all wearing the armor of the Divine Inscription Palace. They were the guards sent by the Divine Inscription Palace to protect the cities that cooperated with the Divine Inscription Palace. Right now, this group of guards were severely injured. Moreover, the wounds on their bodies were all caused by sharp objects. It could be seen that they were scratched by the sharp claws of magical beasts. Aren't you all too careless? You should have rushed back to ask for help if you knew that the magical beast horde was very strong. Zhuochuan said with a frown. Great Elder, you don't know. That magical beast horde is extremely cunning. They actually know how to set up traps and use all kinds of tactics. This is something we did not expect. The old man said with a helpless expression. Zhuochuan was slightly alarmed and hurriedly shouted, I'll go personally this time. Chief Steward, immediately send an elite guard to follow me. Chapter 273. Magical Beast Sijua. Chuan nodded at Qinyan. Your strength is not bad. It's good that you follow us. When the time comes, we might need you to fight the magical beasts. Following that, an elite guard of 100 men gathered in the hall of the Divine Inscription Palace. They all wore mid-grade armor, and their weapons were high-grade weapons. Most of them were middle-aged men at the 9th level martial body realm. They were divided into 10 teams, and each captain was in the martial Dao realm. Qin Yun could be considered to have witnessed the power of the divine inscription palace. Just this elite guard alone was enough to make the various powers at the edge of the 9 desolate lands fear him. "Let's go." Zhuo Chuan only followed along. He was not personally in command, but was commanded by the captain of the guard. Qin Yun and Zhuo Chuan followed behind as they flew through the air towards the city 500 miles away. "Great Elder, has there ever been a magical beast horde that approached a nearby city before?" Furthermore, they even defeated the people from the divine inscription palace. "According to my understanding of the magical beast horde, if they don't have enough strength, they wouldn't take such a risk." Qin Yun said, "There have been before, but they were all quickly taken down by our people. This is the first time something like this has happened." Zhuo Chuan also felt that it was a little strange, so he personally followed them. Amongst the magical beasts, there were also extremely powerful existences. However, these magical beasts would usually not come out, or they would be besieged by humans. Right now, the magical beasts that were attacking the city near the mysterious inscription Spirit Mountain were most likely these extremely powerful existences. Not long after, Qin Yun heard the roar of a beast reverberating in the sky. The elite guards also swooped down. Below the clouds was a medium-sized city. That was Mystic Wind City. This city existed independently and did not belong to any country. It mainly mined spirit iron, ore, and supplied the divine inscription palace with spirit iron, ore, and various refining materials. As a result, it was protected by the divine inscription palace. From the sky, Qin Yun and Zhuo Chuan could see that there were over 1,000 magical beasts below. Furthermore, these magical beasts were all different types of beasts. There were crocodile-like ones, wolf-like ones, boar-like ones, lion-like ones. There were as many as 8 or 9 types of magical beasts. It could be seen that this was a gathering of multiple magical beasts. Didn't they say that there were only 100 magical beasts? There are more than 1,000 of them here, and most of them are Class 9 magical beasts. Zhuo Chuan was also very surprised and said in a serious voice. Qin Yun looked down at the horde of magical beasts that had invaded the city and was astonished. The magical beasts actually know how to use a formation to attack. These formations are what the human army is good at. No wonder they say these demonic beasts are cunning. The elite guards had already rushed into the city. Who opened the city gate? Those guarding the city are really a bunch of idiots. The city gate is undamaged, so it must have been opened from the inside. Zhuo Chuan cursed angrily and rushed down as well. At the same time, he turned his head and said to Qin Yun, "Go save those who are being chased by the magical beasts." Qin Yun nodded and flew above the city. He realized that the array that protected the city had been retracted. He thought to himself, "There's a traitor." The city gate had been opened from the inside, and the city protecting array had been withdrawn. Could it be that someone was cooperating with the magical beasts? Or are these people plotting something? If that wasn't the case, no matter how many demonic beasts there were, they wouldn't be able to break through the city's formation in a short period of time. Qin Yun landed in the city and took out his spirit essence saber. Using the Imperial Spirit Art, he controlled the saber to fly out and kill the wolf-type magical beasts. The magical beasts that were chasing after the humans were mainly small wolf-type magical beasts. The other magical beasts were responsible for destroying the city walls and fighting with the human warriors. The division of labor was very clear, as if someone was commanding them. Especially when the horde of beasts formed an offensive formation, it was even more shocking. This group of wolf-type magical beasts are all Class 9 magical beasts. Even a weaker 9th-level martial artist might not be a match for them, let alone others. When Qin Yun flew over, he saw many people being bitten to death. After the wolf-type magical beasts quickly bit the people to death, they threw them on the ground and continued to attack the other fleeing people. They did not eat the human corpses. It was obvious that they were planning to store the human corpses. Qin Yun's spirit essence saber was very sharp. It was infused with a very strong mental force. Under the control of the Imperial Spirit Art, even a magical beast with rough skin and thick flesh would find it difficult to resist. In just a short while, More than a dozen demonic wolves were killed, and their corpses were taken away by Qin Yin. The pack of demonic wolves that were in charge of hunting humans were stopped by Qin Yin. They no longer attacked humans as ferociously as before. They gathered their strength and charged towards Qin Yin. "Come and die, you stupid wolves." When Qin Yin saw dozens of great demonic wolves charging at him, he was not afraid at all. He took out a few high-grade body securing talismans and threw them at the demonic wolves in front of him. High-grade body securing talismans and spirit bone talismans were enough to deal with Class 9 magical beasts. A few body-securing talismans were released, and the power of the body-securing talismans was like a net that enveloped all the demonic wolves. Dozens of demonic wolves were suddenly unable to move. As for the spirit essence saber that Qin Yin controlled, it had already flown over and started a massacre. Qin Yin stepped on the flame cloud steps like a raging fire lion as he charged into the frozen pack of demonic wolves. He took out the giant king spirit hammer and smashed it at the demonic wolf's head. Boom, boom, boom. Every hammer strike caused the wolf's head to explode. In the blink of an eye, he had struck out 4 or 5 times and killed 4 or 5 wolves. The most terrifying thing was that he could also control the spirit essence saber to kill 5 demonic wolves at the same time. In just a few short moments, 40 demonic wolves had fallen. This caused the fleeing 9th level martial body cultivators to be so shocked that they were speechless. They could sense Qin Yun's aura and knew that he was only at the 9th level martial body realm. However, his strength was terrifying. After the power of the body securing talisman disappeared, there were still 7 or 8 demonic wolves that were still alive. However, in just a few moments, they were killed by Qin Yun's spirit essence saber and giant king spirit hammer. Qin Yun kept the corpses of the demonic beasts into his storage space and rushed to a battlefield a few hundred meters away. There was a group of people being surrounded and killed by more than 10 demonic wolves. The strength of this group of people was not bad. There were several martial artists at the 9th level martial body realm, and the others were at the 7th or 8th level. They could barely withstand the attacks of the demonic wolves. The moment Qin Yun arrived, the spirit essence saber flew over and beheaded the 2 demonic wolves, killing them in an instant. Following that, he unleashed a chi explosion technique with his bare hands, sending the demonic wolf that was attacking a woman flying more than 10 meters away. When a group of people saw how astonishing Qin Yun's strength was, they were all amazed. This was because they saw that Qin Yun was very young and his strength was only at the 9th level martial body realm. Many sharp-eyed people saw the spirit essence saber flying around. This was the spirit artifact that everyone coveted the most. Many people had never heard of a spirit artifact and did not know that it required mental power to activate. They mistakenly believed that anyone could control the saber, so they were extremely envious of it. Very quickly, the remaining dozen or so demonic wolves were killed by Qin Yun. "Thank you for your help, young master. Otherwise, I would have been severely injured by the demonic wolves. My name is Lin. May I know how to address you, young master?" The azure-clothed woman who had been saved by Qin Yun hurriedly walked over and said gratefully, he could only raise his vigilance and discover magical beasts as soon as possible so that he could deal with them. There were many people who had fled the city, but there were no people who had taken this path. Only Qin Yun and the Lin family had taken this path. Lin Yin had previously said that this direction led to a large mountain. There might be magical beasts hidden in the mountains, and it was more dangerous. Therefore, no one took this path. However, in front of him, a few figures appeared. "There's someone here," Qin Yun hurriedly said. The members of the Lin family hurriedly raised their vigilance, as though they were facing a great enemy. They were prepared for battle. Their reaction surprised Qin Yun, because the 2 middle-aged men in front of him were extremely arrogant. Qin Yun felt that they should be the kind of people who played around. However, he never expected that the moment they met someone, they would become completely different people. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.